unstoppable kick-ass confidence. Are you ready?
Welcome to the Raw and Unscripted show with Christopher Rausch, where we help you overcome your self-created crap without the self-help fluffy bullshit. Now please welcome our host, Christopher Rausch.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Now please welcome our host, Christopher Rausch. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's the Raw and Unscripted show special edition bonus section with you guys. Hi, I'm Christopher Rausch, your No Excuses coach, and today is Sunday, April 30th here in the United States, and it is 11 a.m., and I am proud to be bringing you here just in a moment. We are continuing our live coverage of what we did yesterday in helping Mario Bekes break the Guinness Book World Record for continuous live streaming. The current record right now is 53 hours and 1 minute, and Mario has been going now for, I don't know how many hours, he's got 15 hours left, and he's going to go 56 hours and 1 minute. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to need your support in here, and we'd love to have you join us with us in this amazing opportunity going live streaming. Not only that, just getting the mindset around breaking a world record and staying awake for 56 hours continuously. The live stream has to be going without so much as a 30-second break or break between people talking. So everybody has to keep talking continuously for the 56 hours and 1 minute. So we're going to be joining here live in just a moment. We're going to be having some conversation. Mario and I are writing a book as we do this. So we went for about 4 hours yesterday live streaming. You guys can check out the video. I'll put the link here in the comments. And then now today we're going to go for another 3 hours. So let's join in and see where everybody's at. Let's see what's going on. What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? We are live here on the Raw and Unscripted show, going straight to the Alive 95.5 or 90.5 Alive radio in Australia. What's going on, gentlemen? What's going on, beautiful people?
Hey, from Australia.
Chris, can you hear it? Chris, can you hear it? Chris, can you hear it?
I could hear you, Mario, and I can see the two beautiful gentlemen in front of me.
Background on my left-hand side. This is the lovely gentleman. He's 22 years old. His name is Lord Pig, but that's his stage name.
Hello, Chris.
Chris.
Hello, good to see you.
Good morning, Chris.
And this is the better half of the.
Hi, Chris.
What's going on? Good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome. We're broadcasting live here on the Raw and Unscripted show.
Yeah. So what I will do, we started. We yesterday had the questions. No, it's okay. No, I'm just not. We're gonna have the questions, and guys, we just joined Lord Pig, supervisor as well. Okay, and Chris, you ready to continue our conversation?
Absolutely, brother. I am ready. I'm charged. How are you doing? Let's just do a little check-in with you. How many hours have you been going so far?
All of you. So ask the Chris question. So then,
how many hours have we been going? Ask Chris for the audience for his audience. How many hours have we passed already? So since 11 a.m. yesterday, it is now 4 a.m. 11 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 4 a.m. in Sydney, Australia at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what does that make?
That's more than two. Definitely.
More than two.
More than two.
Yeah.
More than two.
So we're very good at math here in Australia, as you can probably work out.
That would be 41 hours.
41 hours.
Yeah.
41 hours. Wow, 41 hours. That's amazing, guys. I think you have like 15 hours left to go. Absolutely incredible. I know you're going to do it. I know you're going to crush it. And I'm excited to be here with you guys and writing this book for people to come out of this experience. So we all come out of this experience with something, right?
That's correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely right, Chris. 15 hours to go. And just so the people from the Guinness Book of Records know, this is a live phone call to Chris right here from Borkham Hills in Sydney, Australia. It's all online.
Yes.
No pre-recorded stuff at all.
That's correct.
Nope.
Thank you. That's it.
Well, we have to say that because
yes, correct.
This is a fair dinkum effort, isn't it?
It is, but because there's a concerned citizens who are already stated that it's all pre-recorded.
No pre-recording.
Never.
No pre-recording.
That's the reason why I had the live feed on YouTube, so they can see it. They can tune in on frequency, must be on. So, there's nothing pre-recorded, but that's a good one. So, Chris, question number one from yesterday, we're going to continue. Lord Pig, the supervisor, and the Dutch boy here in studio.
Dutch boy.
Yes.
Let's rock and roll, guys.
It's better than getting called Touch Boy.
Yes.
Touch boy.
Trust me.
I think the Dalai Lama is getting that one right now.
Yeah, so Chris, the question is, for all of you guys in the studio, Chris is going to be first. What advice would you have for your younger self or younger people just starting out?
What advice would I have for younger people just starting out or myself? the number one thing that comes to my mind, guys, is honestly just to be 100% authentically who you are. For much of my life, up until probably my 30s, really, I went through life understanding that there's a success principle. And that success principle is if I make you feel significant, if I make you look good, then I get to be successful. So I spent my entire life after the age of 17, after I was homeless for 4 years, I spent the rest of my life between 18 and about 33 being everybody else. You know, I was a people pleaser for everybody else. And I started learning pretty quickly, if I'm this person for that person, if I'm that person for this person, and that person for that person, and this person for these people, all these people will be happy. And it wasn't until I continued to do that for quite some time that I realized I was ignoring my true self, my authentic nature. And then ultimately I wound up having an emotional crash, if you will, when I started realizing like, wow, I'm not even being true to myself. So my advice going back to my younger self would just be 100% be who you are. Yes, people are going to have difficulties with you and everything else, but you're going to find the right people that love you and appreciate you, that get with you. And if you do it sooner than you've done it now, you're going to probably be a hell of a lot more happier and a lot more impactful. So yeah, I would definitely just tell everybody out there, no matter what you're doing, fly your freak flag, where you're tall, short, straight, gay, Republican, Democrat, you know, whatever label society wants to put on you, go be you and rock being you. What about you guys? What do you think about that question?
Lord Pig, what would you say?
If I was to give advice to myself or to anyone else, well, I could say don't walk home from Strathfield Station with a milk crate on your head, but I did that multiple times, so I probably won't say that. The best advice I can give my younger self or anyone else, any humans on the planet, don't eat anything bigger than your own head. There you go, Chris.
Have you done this before?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about that experience. What did you eat that was bigger than your head?
I ate a big Queensland watermelon. Queensland's in the northern part of Australia.
Right.
Now, how long would it take you to get to Queensland from here? Driving
about 12. Well, 9 hours.
12 hours to Queensland, and then probably another 12 hours if you wanted to go right to the top.
Wow.
Unless you went in rainy season, in which case
you take the boat.
Yeah, you wouldn't, mate.
You'd a couple of days.
You could not do it. It would be an impossibility.
Yep.
But yeah, a watermelon from the top of Queensland would be, I don't know, maybe 2 foot across, weigh about 10 kilos, I suppose.
Wow.
So what's that in 22 pound in America?
Jesus, you ate that all in one sitting?
Yeah.
Was it a contest?
No, it was an episode of recovery.
Nice. Well, I think that's sound advice. Don't eat anything bigger than your head. What about the rest of you guys?
What about you, Matt?
All right. So let's say before I turn 20, my advice would be don't. Whatever you're thinking right now, just don't. Because don't be a lemon. Or a lemming, right? It's the lemmings, they jump off the cliff, right? Because everyone else is doing it, and as a teenager, you go like, oh, but they're doing it, and it's so cool, so I'm gonna do it as well. And I made the most stupid decisions in my life in that age period, right? Until you're around 25, and then your brain kicks in and starts working. With most people, with mine still questionable. As for other things, as you said, Chris, is go for it. You never get your opportunities back. Right? Life throws opportunities at you. And the worst thing you can do is not take an opportunity and fail. The worst thing you can do is not take an opportunity and think, what if? Right? Go for it. Don't be a lemming. And that goes from after your 20s as well, when your brain kicks in. And then I think, Chris, you mentioned it yesterday, the being comfortably miserable.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite terms.
Which is actually a slow-moving lemming behavior, right? You jump off the cliff very slowly. Which in the corporate life, you're not happy and keep doing it, which I did for longer than I should have. Is now the ultimate freedom that you can experience is having your own business, doing your own thing, making your own mistakes. And the difference between being employed and working for your own business is, as an employer, you only have one customer. That's your employer, and they can just switch you off whenever they want. Yep. Whereas if you have your own business, you got a lot of customers, and one of them can switch you off, but you have many others. So that would be my advice to my younger self. Don't be a lemming, and then when you grow up, it's actually take the freedoms and the opportunities that life gives you.
Supervisor?
I love that.
My life was a bit different. I moved out home as soon as I possibly could to get away from a bad situation. So it's the best way to put it. So I would have had to do the same thing. But it just might have been how I did it, maybe. And I took a career based on I went into nursing just so I could get away from home, because I knew I'd move into a nurse's home. So, but maybe if I didn't come from that situation, I might have done a career which I would have. I know. I always wanted to be an air hostess.
Ah.
So maybe I might have done that. Maybe.
Yeah, but I don't think you get paid as much being an air hostess.
I would have had fun seeing the world, but.
No argument.
No argument whatsoever, yeah. But if you could have the microphone to the world right now, Chris, what would you say?
I do have a microphone to the world right now. What would I say? Honestly, this might be a long-winded answer, and it's politics and all that other stuff aside. For the last, probably about 10 or 12 years, I stopped watching the news. I stopped following politics because I found myself constantly yelling at the television and being frustrated about what the government was doing or what people were doing and the stupidity of society and everything else. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to give myself a break for 2 weeks and I'm not going to watch the news or follow politics. I'm going to see how I feel at the end of those 2 weeks. And so I challenged a friend of mine at work, the same thing. We used to go to work and we would pontificate about, everything that was going on in the federal government and the lobbyists and all this other stuff. And just, Monday morning quarterback like you do about a sports team or whatever. And so we went the 2 weeks and I said, how are you feeling? And he says, man, I feel pretty good. And I said, actually, I feel really good that I'm not going to actually even do this. I'm actually going to continue to not follow this because I'm finding that I feel so much better about everything in the world. And I'm seeing so many things in a positive way. Well, recently, some people brought to my attention what was kind of going on here in the United States. I'll just say it, it's embarrassing what's going on in our country. If you look at the news, it really does look pathetic. It looks like, they're trying to divide us, like the vaxxers versus the anti-vaxxers, the Trumps versus the Bidens, anything you want to look at it. And then we've had the Budweiser commercial out here where we were talking about, they put the transgender person on the can, just the can. They didn't put on all the cans and people freaked out. I found out about something going on in Tennessee where they changed the law where a county clerk, like if you come in to get married in the city hall, the county clerk, depending on what their personal opinions are about marriage, can sit there and say whether or not you can get married. So whether you're a gay couple, you can get married. Whether you're an interracial couple, you may not be able to get married, so on and so forth. And I saw this stuff and I was just like, what is our world coming to? But again, my head was buried in the sand, sitting there thinking, okay, I'm not going to deal with all that stuff because I can't really do anything about it. But ultimately, something spoke to me. A whisper has spoken to me recently, and I have to use something. I have to use my voice and my platforms for the people that follow me, that dig my style of motivation and inspiration. And so if I had a microphone to the world right now, I would just tell people we are more the same than we are different. To stop watching the news and stop following politics for a month. Give yourself a month, and in that month, do this one thing. This is what we can do to change the entire world around, guys, and I want to get your opinion on this. If we stop following the news and following politics and just look at people, and number one, seek first to understand, then to be understood. But number two, if we looked at people and said, we're all more the same than we are different. I've spoken in front of thousands of people, and I've told, and I do this towards the end of my speeches. I just try to give perspective to everybody. And I'm like, okay, look at everybody in the audience. You have black, white, short, straight, gay, Republican, Democrat, blah, 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 all these different things, different nationalities, different colors of skin, different religious beliefs, all this stuff. And people start looking around and I'm like, there's probably a few of you in here that might be racist or might be prejudiced or something like that. I just encourage you to take a look around at all the beautiful people here today that have more similarities than you could ever imagine. And you guys always look at the one thing that splits you apart. So in the grand scheme of things, if we do look different on the outside, but if you split us down the middle and look on the inside, we're all the same. We can have interchangeable organs. I can donate blood. I donate blood every 8 weeks because I have a rare blood type. So I know within about 5 days, my blood's saving somebody's life. And I don't care where they come from. I'm just glad I'm able to save somebody's life. So I would just encourage everybody out there to, number one, seek first to understand, whether it's your family members, your coworkers, people across the aisle that you don't agree with. Because I've learned this. My mother was a very, very challenging person. Let's just say that. My book is coming out later this year. I'll give you guys a little sneak peek of the cover of it. It's about my life story as a homeless kid on the streets. It's called It's Just You and Me, Kid. It's a story of a mother and son survival on the streets of California. When I look at, what our opportunity is here for us to do, I look at the fact that, we have an obligation to our youth and to be able to sit there and leave this place in a better place than it was when we first got here. And so I just encourage people to go out there and do nice things for other people. And, as part of what has helped me in this is when I was writing this book and thinking about my mother, I had so much animosity and anger for her because of the way she treated me, making me homeless and giving the cats priority treatment. There's a whole long story. But then one day I said, how can I find empathy and forgiveness for this person, for my mom? How can I find empathy and forgiveness for her? And it was a really weird way that popped into my mind, but I decided to explore it. And my mother used to tell me, I'm 4 years old. I'm 4 years old. I'm like, Mom, shut the F up. You're a 44-year-old woman. Start acting like it, right? She was incredibly brilliant in books. I mean, incredibly smart. She could have been a doctor, incredibly smart. People smart. She was stupid as the day is long. But I sat there and I thought, 4 years old. What happened at 4 years old? Well, I remembered my mother's parents got divorced when she was 4 years old, and her biological father went to go live this perfect life with his new wife. I guess he was having an affair, I'm not sure, and had this, textbook, here's how great my life is. And while at the same time, she had to go live with her mother, who had more psychological issues than my mother did. And so when I thought, if I went through all the experiences my mother went through, if I had all those beliefs put in myself, if I grew up in that same time of the world in the late 40s and the 50s and the 60s, might I be like her? And that was a tough question to ask myself, guys, because my initial gut instinct was I would be like her, but I didn't want to say it because I had that anger and that animosity, and it kind of worked for me. But I thought, hell, if I was her and I went through all of her experiences and saw all the different things she saw and experienced all those things, yes, I would be like her. And in that moment, I immediately found empathy and forgiveness for her. I didn't necessarily agree with her, but I was able to see where she came from. And it relieved a lot of stress for me in that I was always expecting her to be the great mom. I always wanted her to be Mrs. Brady. I always wanted her to be Mrs. Cunningham. I always wanted her to be, honey, what do you need? Oh, here, let me take care of you. And the quite honest truth is I found out later in life, she was going to give me up for adoption. So she didn't even want me. And that may sound sad, but for me to realize that she never wanted me allowed me the opportunity to let go of all those expectations I had of wanting a mother to be there to take care of me. And that relieved me of a lot of stress and a lot of anger and a lot of guilt. So if I had a microphone to people, I would just say, please go try to understand other people, see where they're coming from, find empathy and forgiveness for them, heal yourself first, because hurt people hurt people. And with that, go out there and do one nice thing for a complete stranger every day. Just say hi to them, let them in from the driveway, let them merge onto traffic, buy them a sandwich, pay for the meal, for the car. Do something nice for a complete stranger every day. And if the whole world did that, I truly believe this world would be a much, much more amazing, harmonious place. And so that's what I would do if I had a microphone to the world. I would love to hear your guys' answers to that as well, because together we can change the world. So thank you for that. Great question.
Lord Pig, if you have a mic, what would you say?
Okay. I'm with you. I don't watch the news. I haven't watched the news for years because it's rubbish. But if I had a microphone to the world, I'd say there is an old children's sonnet that suggests you should never smile at a crocodile. Whilst this is good advice, there is no mention of becoming overly familiar with a great white shark, a blue-ringed octopus, a box jellyfish, a red-backed spider, an enraged wombat, or a stingray. Poor form indeed. That is this morning's Pig Thought.
Oh, interesting. That's a deep.
I love it. Short and sweet to the point.
Yeah, it makes me think of the song from what was it called? Come to Australia, you might accidentally get killed.
Oh, everything he wants to kill you.
Is that a Quentin Tarantino movie?
I was talking on. I was playing a game at home on the laptop, and there was an American bloke playing, and he said, "Do you really have crocodiles in Australia?" So I typed back, "Yeah, we have big salties. That's what we call our saltwater crocodiles. We have big salties." And he said, "What do they eat?" And I just typed back, "Tourists." That's what they eat.
It had been a good season until a few years ago.
Yeah.
They do that down in Florida.
Over to you, Matt.
All right. Well, the first thing I would say, obviously with my background with computers, is "Hello World." That's the first computer program. It said "Hello World." What I would say is, I absolutely agree what you said. You switch off the news because it isn't news. It's we're made to divide. right? Everything that's there is to make you divided, right? And that's, you create two extremes and eradicate the middle. Where have we seen that before? Well,
Yeah.
I think it was the Bolshevik Revolution. So let's not do that again because it didn't end well, right? So it's, and I think that the world, everyone individually, right? You are the master of your own life. Don't go to, oh, but the government wants this. Oh, because I can't do it because my employer wants that. All the rights that other people have over you come from you. If you give away those rights, then don't complain that someone is controlling you because you let yourself be controlled.
Yeah.
When we were in lockdown, guess what? Lynette and I, we just did not follow any of the restrictions because there is no restriction on us. We give the power to the government, not the other way around. The news can broadcast, but it's our choice to listen.
Mm-hmm.
It's our choice
That's
to
deep.
read
That's deep.
and see and find our own truth. And you know what? The next thing is then take a few minutes to think before you speak, before you act, before you do something. And jokingly, we actually, with a group of friends, we instituted the International Do Not Be Stupid Day.
Yeah, that's what I'm
And
about.
maybe we can
Shouldn't
make
it
this.
be Do Not Be Stupid month?
Well, I think it should be a Do Not Be Stupid lifetime, but you start small.
Yep.
And it's the 15th of December, so maybe we can make this a global audience. The 15th of December is the International Do Not Be Stupid Day. All we ask is just before you do something, just think for 15 minutes. What is it going to do for me in the future? What's going to do for someone else right now? What's going to do for someone else in the future? And how about people I don't know? Am I making it better or worse? Right?
And even being simple about it, how much is it going to cost me if it goes wrong?
Well,
Yeah,
cost
true.
you, cost other people. In the end, it's all going to cost us because you will be judged on how you live your life eventually, right? Everybody that's on the deathbed always has regrets. That's your first judgment.
Oh, speaking my
Some
language.
people go like, "That's my last judgment." Maybe, maybe not, right? But if you go out like, "Gee, I got so many regrets," then maybe you should have thought on the 15th of December every year that extra 15 minutes. And if we can make that an International Do Not Be Stupid Day, maybe that would be then remembered in 100 years from now. Like, gee, we actually had a day for this. Can you imagine how we survived as a species, that we just had to institute one day, that we just were not stupid. We just thought a little bit, right? And also it's try then in that day to foster your thoughts on like, is this instant gratification? Is it expedient for me to do, or is it the right thing to do? Because usually they're mutually exclusive. The right thing to do tends to be harder, right?
You got that right.
And that's my microphone to the world. So hello world, and International Do Not Be Stupid Day.
Love it.
I like
Love
it.
it. Thank you for that.
I like the sounds of where you're coming from, Matt, and I like where Chris is coming from. Because I think I like the same thing. I gave up on what to expect from people years ago, like from my family. But I've learned different, obviously, with Lord Pig. So I've got, coming back to a normal realm. Well, as you could.
A normal realm.
Well, what's it?
Identify what normal is.
Normal realm.
Don't ever call me normal again, please.
I won't. I wasn't calling you normal.
Oh, that's okay then.
I was saying what people expect you to, people expect you to behave, sort of thing. But I do. I constantly look at people, and a lot of people just will say the same thing. I always say, why do people do that? Why do they act like that stupid? Like, it's obvious you shouldn't be doing that. So yeah.
That's a good one. Okay.
Well, the supervisor and myself have a theory about flat tires.
Yep.
If you have a flat tire on your car, would you change it? Chris, you've never heard this before. If you had a flat tire on your car, would you change it if you did not know it was flat?
Would I change my flat tire on my car if I didn't know it was flat? No.
No, of course you wouldn't.
I wouldn't have any symptoms of it.
Okay, so what if someone told you had a flat tire, but you refused to believe you had a flat tire? Would you change it? No.
I would take a
That's
look.
what's wrong.
I would take a
That's
look
what's
at
wrong with a lot of people. They refuse to believe they got a flat tire.
it. True. Oh yeah. True. Yeah. So many people sit
Think
there.
about it. Think
Yep.
about it. Even after you've been told you've got a flat tire, they will not change their. Obviously, I'm not talking about cars. They will not change their behaviour.
Exactly. Not until
The
there's
way
enough
they
leverage.
treat their kids, their husband, their wife, their boss, the people that work with them, the people that work for them. They won't change that behaviour because they don't want to see that they've got a flat tire.
Mm-hmm.
So, comfortable ignorance.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then the new definition of, let me define then true evil, because unfortunately that exists. Those are the people slashing your tires and saying everything is all right.
Yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it?
That's a government.
The funny thing is, we're all saying the same sort of thing in a different way.
Yeah, using different words, yeah.
We're all saying, like, let's all, we're all reflecting on what we do and why we do it. So it's the same sort of,
It's almost like Cobb's paradox in projects. Cobb's paradox in project management says we all know why projects fail and we all know how to prevent it. So how come projects still fail?
Still fail.
So we all know how to behave and
Yeah.
make the world a better place. So how come we mess it up?
Someone's
Yeah.
got
Why
a
do
flat,
we keep doing it?
someone's got a
Ego.
flat tire.
Yeah.
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 3 letters.
All right.
Ego.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go. There you go.
What about
Here's
Mario?
another question, Chris. We'll start with you as well. Mario's giving me the question sheets, and he's
okay.
instructed me not to make up my
Yeah,
own
because I'm
questions.
behind you. I mean, so I don't see him and you guys are there, so like,
So,
same thing.
I want to hear Mario's answer to that question. What would you say? What would you say to
Yeah,
people?
what would you
what
say,
would you say,
Mario?
Mario? You have
For
to-
what?
You have a
The
microphone
question
to the
you just
world.
Your own question. What would you say to the world if you had a microphone in your hand right now?
Suck it up and
Suck
live your
it up.
life. Yeah.
There we go.
It's
Suck it up.
literally.
Yeah.
Suck it up and live the life. Listen your intuition and do, according to law and legislation. I mean,
Yes, yes,
Yep.
yes.
but live your life.
Yep.
Without worrying what other people think, say, believe, just live your life.
Mm.
You know, the supervisor said it a minute ago. The 5 of us are all saying the same thing.
Yep.
In different words.
We're all saying the same thing using different words.
I'm still
Yeah.
on a tire.
Yeah.
We're
I'm still
interconnected.
Oh, you're still on the tire?
Yes, because the concept, but it's like, I think myself, I'll change the tire because it's
Mario's, hey, Guinness Book of World Records, Mario's going outside to change a tyre. It's finished. It's finished. It's finished.
Love it.
But actually, it relates to what you said earlier, Chris, and if I may paraphrase, is a lot more we have in common than what divides us.
Yes.
Yep.
If you
Mhm.
draw a
Correct.
Venn diagram of all humans in the world,
Mhm.
let me guess, the part that overlaps is we smell in the toilet,
Yep.
we bleed red,
Yep.
we need food and oxygen.
Yep.
We need people around us. We
Yep.
want the best for us and our children. And there is some people, unfortunately, that are still on the outside of that and that have their egos a little bit bigger than their purpose in life.
Right.
But most of us, right, we have a lot more in common than what divides us.
Yes.
A lot more. And I think we should focus on that. Anyway, the next one here, and I think these questions are fantastic, by the way. So both you, Chris, Mario, and whoever set them up, it's really keeping us on our toes.
Yeah. Mario will tell you what it is later.
All right. What are some of your fears, and how do you keep going anyway? And we're talking about your biggest fear, not like, oh, I'm afraid of spiders. Well, yeah, but there's a way to avoid them. So what is your biggest fear and almost an insurmountable obstacle, but you kept going anyway? And let's start on the other side.
There you go.
So, there you go. The biggest fears. I have to start first. Okay, let's go through that one.
Okay. I think my biggest fear was when I first left home,
Mm-hmm.
when I'd gone from one horrible environment to making my own environment and then trying to make it what it should be or how I'd like it to be. And then, so then from that goes a fear of making mistakes, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
And then ending up then falling into a trap and being like the environment I came from, which I didn't want to have. So that's the best way.
Avoiding to go back to where you came from because you worked so hard to get out of it. You went through all that effort
Yeah.
to get out. Like,
Out of it,
how do I avoid getting back there?
into it. Yeah.
Mm.
Love it.
It is almost like race drivers, right? They go. The car tends to go where they're looking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If they look at the wall, they actually hit the wall.
Yep.
Right? Is it constantly in your taste? I don't want to go there, or you focus on actually this is what I do want, and that's how I avoid the things I don't want.
I'm open to whatever, like different pathways. I just don't want to look back, and
Right.
I just don't. Yeah, like I said, if a car's not facing backwards, I can't go back there. But just get in the brain that you can't go back if you're not facing that way.
There's a good reason why the rear view mirror in the car is much smaller than your windscreen.
Yeah.
Amen. I think we talked about that yesterday.
All right, Lord Pig.
Alrighty. Well, I'm not really frightened of anything, to be honest with you, which is actually a problem sometimes because it gets you into trouble. But I was a psychiatric nurse for 35 years. I was attacked by blokes who were 6'8" and they end up in hospital, which I'm not overly proud of. But yeah, I didn't take a backward step to anybody, no matter who they were, whether they be bosses. The Premier of New South Wales once, which is, what would you call that in America, Chris?
Governor.
A governor.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not overly frightened of anyone or anything like that. But of course, that can bring you into trouble. You make stupid mistakes, telling your boss, go and get, and that doesn't do you any favours in the long run.
Or short run.
No. But I'm not, what we've got in Australia, you guys have got a, what is it, the black spider, we call it a redback. What do you guys
The Black
call it?
Widow?
The Black Widow, yeah. I've had those on my hand. They don't worry me in the slightest.
It's the funnel webs that actually...
Funnel webs, not that you see them very often, but the Sydney funnel web is an extremely dangerous spider. A taipan in North Queensland, extremely dangerous snake, the most dangerous snake. Forget what the Indians tell you. The most dangerous snake in the world.
Excuse me, they're also in New South Wales.
Yeah.
I always thought that the most deadly animal in Australia is a hoon with a V8 ute and no restrictions on his capability of driving is a little bit less than his ego.
Hang on, we have to talk in American for Chris. What we call a ute, you guys call a pickup.
But it's a bit different because it's actually a passenger car where they cut off the passenger's side and make it so you can go to church on Sundays with the car and load your cows or sheep in the back on the rest of the week. And so it's got air in the back and a V8 engine rear-wheel drive. So if your competence with driving doesn't exceed your confidence, it's a danger for everyone on the road.
Oh wow!
Fantastic.
The ute, I remember the word, the ute.
Yeah.
So you're saying the urban problem versus the bush.
I think it's
the urban animal versus the bush, the animal in the bush.
Ecology has its way of balancing itself out. Yes. Right, so in the bush there's not too many people, so they actually keep it in check. But the urban hoons with a ute, they actually shouldn't be in a ute. They tend to,
Yeah, and there's no control.
And the gene pool.
And there's the thing is, there's no control over them. And how many there are.
No.
Yeah.
Well, they brought in the the P platers in Australia now. So when you're learning to drive, you're only allowed to have a car that's so powerful, aren't you?
Yeah, I think there's a horsepower limit.
Yeah.
But you don't need a lot of horsepower to be really stupid in a car.
No, you do not.
It's it helps, right? It certainly helps raising the limit how stupid you can be.
Yes.
But I could be stupid in my first car, and I was in the Netherlands, right? So again, we have it's flat as a pancake, so you don't need a big engine. So my first car had an engine was 1 liter, 3-cylinder. It did 140. That was it.
Three-cylinder.
Yeah, a 3-cylinder, 1 liter.
That's an unusual combination.
It was cheap to run, cheap to operate. It did go over the speed limit, so that was fine with me because I was young and stupid.
Yeah.
And if you want to park it, you could almost see like a Samsonite suitcase, where if you put a handle on it, you could lift it up and put it in the parking spot. But that's fine.
Wow.
Right? It's a very light little car. It was a Subaru Justy.
Oh, my friend had one of those.
Yeah.
Here in the States, yeah.
Yeah, it's 3 times nothing. It weighed nothing, so you know the engine would actually get you somewhere. I wouldn't want to drive it uphill, but then again, the Netherlands mostly it's downhill anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry, I mixed politics in that answer, but it's
He's a comedian.
it's as flat as a pancake.
Yeah, it's flat. Yeah.
So my biggest fear is actually this question. I have to answer this question and really tell you my fears, and that is this. So there's things I just avoid, right? Like the spiders and the snakes and all the stuff. I don't like the critters. I do have a redback spider in the meter cabinet outside. It's just
in your electricity box.
Yeah. They like to sit there.
Yeah, they don't mind that, do they?
No, they're very comfortable, but they're just sitting there, right? It's like nothing. The funnel webs, we do have some funnel webs in our garden, and they come out when it rains, and they go around there. And when we had a pool, they tend to fall in the pool.
I do that.
They could use an international do not be stupid day, because falling in the pool, even though they have little hairs, it keeps the air bubbles around.
That's right.
Poolmen. So the pool cleaners are at most at risk of getting bitten by a funnel web because they fall in the pool. And because the little hairs, there's a little air pocket, so they can survive for days in the water.
That's right.
Correct.
Wow.
And they pick them up and they get bitten, and it's not good for your health, not conducive to a long life. So don't do that, right? So,
no. They've now got an anti-venom for funnel webs.
Yeah, but you need to be fast.
You got to get to the hospital within about half an hour.
Right, you need to be really quick, and don't drive. Right?
No.
Don't drink and drive, but I think they should also have a test. Have you been bitten by a spider, and are you driving? Don't do that either. Yeah. My biggest fear is disappointment. Not for me, because that's fine, right? If you never want to get disappointed, lower your expectations, and you'll always be happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest fear I have is disappointing those that I actually do something for.
Yep.
My clients, for instance, right? I take great pride in the work that I do. Disappointment for your family, disappointment for basically anywhere. Everybody goes, when it's the end of your small stint here on this place, and people come together and say, let's talk about Matt for a while. Gee, what a disappointment that was. Now that would not be good. So I hope that net it's what I want to avoid is like, well, net it would have been best if it wasn't in our lives. Right, so you want to have a positive effect on the world around you. That you matter, and that's, I think, translated back to the goal, right? Because fear is not meeting your goal, is a life that matters. It doesn't have to be a life of fame that a lot of people know you and all that stuff. Because to me, that actually doesn't matter. It's even if you just touch one person's life and made it slightly better, then your time here has not been wasted.
Is it worthwhile touching your own life and making it better?
Yes.
And therefore, through that, filtering down to other people. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't help others unless you help yourself. And I think we mentioned that as well in the airplane, right? A couple of the analogies. You put your own oxygen mask on before you help someone else.
Yep.
Because if you don't, then someone else needs to help you. That could have helped someone else as well.
Yep.
You gotta fix yourself before you fix the world. You gotta fix your own little environment. And I'm a big believer again. It's and it comes down to government. It's like governance needs to go from around you upwards, not the other way around. So you need to fix your family. You're governing your family, your household, your community. Then the county, the state, the nation. That order. Not the other way around, like, oh, my life sucks. I wish the government would do something. Because then you give away all that power to people that probably could use an international do not be stupid day. Right? Because if you, so it's fix your own stuff before you interfere with other people's stuff.
Yeah. I think there are people in the world that require the government to give them a hand because they can't do it themselves. But that just goes back to the flat tire, doesn't it?
It does, but also, what does it say about the community? If the only people willing to give them a hand, or there's no one else but the government, the faceless entity called government run by bureaucrats, is the only entity in the community giving it. What does it tell us about the community that your neighbors, your family, your own area cannot reach out and give you a hand?
They failed as well.
That's actually, I think that's called failure of society.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, definitely.
And we let it happen because it's so easy, like just give the government some money and let them solve all the problems, right? And I think that's not how we as a species, as a civilization progress. That's how you regress.
Yeah.
That's what you said. People like get hurt, like car accidents or other thing or whatever, and people just don't want to hang around and make sure they're okay. They just want to get out of there.
Well, or they pick up their phone and video it for TikTok or something.
I don't
It's just
understand
terrible.
that.
Yeah.
Why would you do that instead of giving someone a hand?
I think it started with America's Funniest Home Videos, where people started tying little ropes around the ankles of their kid and then yank it and then film it so they wouldn't fall on command. It's just, there's a German word for that, Schadenfreude, right? We love it when other people's misery is there. There's a part of the human brain like, look at that, right? And we've started exploiting that in a commercial sense. And Schadenfreude is a real thing, right? People actually do feel some sort of satisfaction. Look at that, but it also serves as a warning. I'm glad it's not me. Better make sure it's not me, because people do silly things or have accidents, so you become more careful. If you start commercially exploiting that and make a TV show out of it, for instance, look at us laughing on our sofas. They're falling over. And like, okay, but you didn't see the next part, right? But actually go to the hospital and all that stuff.
That's right.
Or worse now, we have the social media that has the algorithms on engagement. And what do people engage with? Bad news and stupid things. Right? And then if you watch enough stupid things, stupidity becomes the norm.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the movie Idiocracy? It was made probably about 10 years ago. It's a movie.
Yeah.
I told my wife that we haven't seen it in probably about 4 or 5 years, but we quoted a lot. Like, this is what's happening to our world. Literally yesterday we were out for a walk and I said, we got to go back and watch that again and just see how much more of it is becoming true, because it is. We're becoming desensitized to everything. And it's now, and then there's a cartoon that's called Up. And basically we destroy Earth so badly that we have to live up in aircrafts. And now because we've gotten everything delivered to us that we're so fat, like everything just comes to us, that all of a sudden now the electronics start breaking down, everybody has to start walking and actually doing things again. So like it's a children's cartoon, but it's pretty precise in what it's talking about, how society is going today. Yeah,
actually, Idiocracy, there's more reality to it than you think.
Yeah.
The number one TV show was called "Oh My Balls." It's just just exactly how it sounded, and people were laughing at that because there was nothing to it. Now, if you switch on the TV right now, it's actually not much worse, right? A pro wrestler was the president. Have I heard people saying The Rock should actually run for president? It's going that, and
would he be allowed? He would have been born in Samoa, wouldn't he?
I have no idea, but it's stupid internet memes, so don't give it too much credit. I don't even think he wants to run. He's got better things to do, I would think.
He'd make more money doing what he's doing now.
Exactly. And the moment we start feeding our crops with Gatorade, and then we're screwed.
Yeah.
Because it's got electrolytes, right? That was the whole thing. Like, but we gave our plants Gatorade. It's got electrolytes. It makes plants grow. Yeah. And then everything died.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Chris, what was the name of the movie you mentioned a minute ago?
Idiocracy.
Yeah, it's by Mike Judge.
It's a stupid comedy, but when we watched it a couple of years ago, it was right before here in the United States when Trump and Biden were running against each other. It was like, oh my God, Trump is running for president, and then all of a sudden you watch the movie Idiocracy, and you're like, okay, what did they do? They elected like a wrestler. I can't remember what it was on the movie, and it was just the dumbing down of everything. Like, especially here in the States, like here in the States, we're more worried about transgenders going and teaching in school versus kids getting killed in school. I mean, both of them are a priority, but I think saving our kids' lives and having bills on the books that helps keep some of these assault rifles out of people's hands I think it's a little bit more important. Like, oh my God, a transgender kid's going to come, or a transgender person's going to come teach my kid. I mean, I get it, but there's definitely priorities in this, but we're just getting sewn up to it. It's just like, oh, another shooting. Okay.
Probably a bigger problem.
What was that?
Getting shot is probably a bigger problem.
Yeah, I mean, kids are worried. Like my wife was looking at my son's 6 years old. He's in he's in kindergarten. She actually, when the Uvalde, Texas shooting happened, she looked at getting him a backpack that's bulletproof. I'm like, that kid's not going to know what to do. I mean, that's not going to. I mean, come on. I mean, the chances of it happening are hopefully low, but at the same time, we got to stick together and find out what's the deeper problem. The deeper problem, like we were talking about on the show yesterday, is that what's that root? The root is mental health. There's not a sufficient mental health system in the book. I read this book. I'm reading this one right now. It's called The Myth of Normal by Dr. Gabor Mate. It's brilliant because it talks about all the conditioning process that goes into us before we're even 5 years old. I mean, in utero, what passed on biology from our parents, what's passed on from past lives, all this different stuff that creates the people who we are today. So yeah, I'm super passionate about it. And I feel like, if we can all just do a little bit in our world by listening more to people we disagree with, and then maybe that person that we disagree with goes, wow, that was kind of interesting. I haven't had somebody like ask me my opinion, and maybe that person goes and tells somebody. And if we could just start getting people to listen to one another, we don't have to agree, but ultimately when we come back down to those similarities, what can we do to find the best solutions that work for both people that ultimately are for the kids or for the X or for the Y, instead of the ego and the money, because there's more antidepressants out there than there ever has before, but there's more suicides, there's more everything else going on. So what it is that we're doing isn't working. So we need to get to that root of the problem.
Yeah. Don't they say that if you, going into, the real looking at the problem is, if you can't passionately argue for the other side of the debate convincingly, you don't understand your own side well enough.
Exactly.
And I think we need to do more of that. Right?
People hate that when you say that too.
Problem and debates is truly start to understand and unpack the argument that you actually, I'm totally opposed to this. Let's unpack that. Why would that be a good thing? Because what you'll find is, first of all, if you have a debate between people of goodwill and good faith, 3 people learn from it. Both people in the debate, and then let's say the audience as the third person. Right? We all have a new way of looking. The second thing that happens is neither of those solutions that are being debated will be the best outcome. Because each party will learn something from the other, and you'll pick the best. And it's not called compromise. Compromise is a solution no one is truly unhappy with, but it doesn't work. That's how governments work, right? That's compromise. It's you get the best solution by taking the elements and truly understanding and testing it with the data that we have, right? I'm not saying that's the truth because we have limited data, but the data that we have make the best possible decision that you can make to predict the outcome, and then measure that and not go like, well, I know the outcome isn't exactly as I planned it, but it must be something wrong with how you measure it. It's like, no, okay, we know things now that we didn't know, and it's not called flip-flopping, as we say here with the politicians. Oh, they're flip-flop. They think this now, they think that now. Yeah, they're flip-flopping because of the polls, not because of the data, right? Is if you learn something new, you got to change your opinion. If you're someone who never changed their opinion, guess what? They never learned anything. And if we get that and have an honest debate, and we can be vigorously disagreeing on the solution, right? But if we get the diagnosis of the problem, okay, right? If we agree on the and this is actually what I think is happening a lot between the debates with left and right, and also, forget left and right, there's right and wrong.
Yeah.
Right? We may not agree what is right and wrong, but eventually go down to the fundamentals. If you do horrible things to kids, I think we all agree that's wrong. Right? If you agree that's right, then I think we have a problem. Right? So there are some fundamental rules that we all deep in our core know what's right and wrong. And let's start from that. And then we go to the diagnosis of the problem. Let's take, we have horrible inflation. Oh, it's terrible. And it's because of this. Okay, let's break it down to the core. Why do we have inflation? What is the actual underlying problem? What is inflation? Well, it's more money chasing the same or lesser number of goods. If you go for supply and demand, let's say we all have $10 in our pockets. And there's one cup of coffee that is for sale right now. And we desperately want that cup of coffee. That cup of coffee will be $10. Now there's still that one cup of coffee. I
totally disagree with you.
Yeah?
What cup of coffee?
The one that we desperately want.
No, I've already drunk it.
Yeah.
You guys have missed out.
But assume the same scenario, and Lord Pig hasn't drunk the coffee yet. And we all have now $100 in our pocket, and we desperately want that cup of coffee, and there's only one for sale. That cup of coffee will be $100.
You're talking about supply and demand.
It's magic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. So if we get the diagnosis of the problem right, we don't have to agree on the solution yet. And right now, we're not even talking about the diagnosis. There's half of the people think like, well, there is no problem.
Yep.
There is no problem. That's the blinkers on, right? I have no flat tire.
Yeah.
Right. And don't you dare say that there's a flat tire. You're a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
So that will kill the conversation, or something else ending with an is or an hope, right?
Yeah.
But if we do have a problem, let's diagnose it.
Yep.
Right. And if we come to that a methodology as a community again, and that's why I think you need to leave politics out of it as much as you can, because politicians are paid for one thing only, and that is get reelected. Especially if they're part of a party. It's power, it's money, it's a machine, it's a business. They don't measure themselves in profit. Right? A business measures itself in profit. Is my return higher than what I put in? Because if it isn't, I'm not going to be around much longer.
No, you're going broke. Yeah.
A politician doesn't measure returns that way.
No.
Right? It's like, okay, well, where is the return in politics usually is our influence. What's our influence circle?
Yep.
Right? And that needs to get bigger. And I go, well, actually, it needs to get a lot smaller. It needs to go back to community. And then we can go back to normal debates, like what actually matters for a community. Because if I don't see much of it, but if I hear or see something that's being debated in Parliament House, you're like, who cares about that? That doesn't affect me at all. Why is this an issue? Why is this a thing? And why are you talking about it as my representative?
Yeah.
And then I get my representative representing their interest back to me. And they go, that's not actually how it's supposed to work.
Supposed to be the other way
supposed
around.
to represent me into that body over there where we elected you. We've given up some of our powers and delegated to you to act on our behalf. Not to come back to us and tell us why those special interest groups are more important than you representing us.
Yeah, they're supposed to be our managers, in essence.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
but not managing their own affairs. They're supposed to manage everyone's affairs.
And we're the board of directors.
That's right. Yeah.
And we should be able to sack them. So I'm
Well, we
all for
can.
recall elections.
We can. If you're in a democracy, you can.
Yeah, well, debate democracy or representative democracy, because democracy is two dingoes and a rabbit having an election on what's for dinner.
The rabbit.
I like the way you talk, man. I like the way you talk.
The rabbit.
So anyway, let's go to Chris. Have you answered your biggest fear already? I think we started with you, didn't we?
No,
we didn't.
No, you started.
Before you answer, Chris, just let me say it's 8 minutes to 5 a.m. in Sydney, Australia, and we're here for the Guinness World Records attempt by Mario for the longest audio-only live stream. And we've got, what have we got, about a bit over 14 hours to go.
Ooh, home stretch, baby, home stretch. You guys got this.
Yep.
I mean, it's super, super exciting. So what is my biggest fear and how do I keep going anyway? Matt, I think you talked about it just a few answers ago, and you said one of the words that I really keep in my mind every single day, and that's regrets, right? I've got this book right here. I'll show it on screen for everybody who's watching the live stream that I've got going on. I keep this book handy and dandy. It's called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. It was written by a hospice nurse named Bronnie Ware, BronnieWare. The top 5 regrets of the dying. You can go Google it and it'll show you what the top 5 regrets are. The number one, and actually I just studied a book about regrets by a guy named Daniel Pink. He had a book all about regrets that he wrote during the pandemic. So for me, when I think about it, I think that this is my opinion has evolved quite a bit over the years. Because I was not a very spiritual person. I was not a very religious person for most of my life. It was like I was just very black and white. What do I need to do to succeed? What do I need to do to make sure I'm not homeless? And how do I kind of get ahead in the world and maybe get a few things and get some validation for my experience, right? But when I started getting more spiritual and I started getting to more understand about life and the soul's experience having this human experience, the soul having the human experience, I listened to Dr. Wayne Dyer. Years and years and years ago, I was house sitting for a friend of mine. She didn't have cable. My wife and I were there. They had a brand new puppy. So I'm flipping through the channels. There's nothing on. I hate commercials. So I just stop on PBS. And this guy, Dr. Wayne Dyer, is out there talking very eloquently. And ladies and gentlemen, source and chakras and da-da-da. I'm like, oh my God, what is this guy talking about? But I loved that he was trying to say it in simple ways, right? He wasn't trying to talk over my head. Like I've been to church and it's like, okay, I don't understand what you guys are talking about, so I'm not going to come here. But he started talking in simple ways and thinking about, okay, our soul is having this human experience, and then our souls have had multiple human experiences. So when I think about it, for me, I was buying a brand new truck. I bought 2 brand new cars in my life. You know, when you walk up to the window and it's got all the things in there, all the bells and whistles, you're like, oh my God, sunroof and heated seats and backup camera, oh my God, this truck's going to be amazing. This truck's going to be amazing. I think about the same thing because I like analogies. So I think about the same thing in our soul's experience to come here and to have this human experience. Like what was my spec sheet when I came here? Like, okay, Chris, you're going to be able to do all these things. You're going to impact millions and millions of people. You're going to have a hit podcast. You're going to go out there and you're going to be a professional speaker. You're going to start a nonprofit organization to help teens get life skills. You're going to do all these things, right? You know, you've got your spec sheet. My biggest fear is that when I get to the end of my life and I go before God, source, universe, creator, however we want to look at it, and he pulls out this sheet and says, yo, Chris, this is what you signed up for, buddy. My biggest fear, I only accomplished this much. Mm. And I look back and I think about those regrets. The top regret of the dying, and I think I may have mentioned this yesterday, but it's still worth repeating. The biggest regret people have, and they're laying on their deathbed, and these are it's hard to listen. There's one story in here that I had to stop. I was listening to an Audible. I had to stop because I couldn't fathom how to be that miserable and dying. Like, you're basically sitting there thinking like, wow, I could have taken all these chances. I could have taken these risks. I could have ended that relationship 15 years sooner when I knew it was not going to work out, but I stayed there hoping, wishing and praying that something would change. So my thing is regrets. And so what I did for me to give myself, everything we talk about is leverage. We don't change until there's enough leverage in the game, right? Alcoholics usually don't change until they've been busted. They've had a DUI. They've hurt somebody. They killed somebody, something. Unfortunately, most of us have to learn the hard way. I'm watching my 6-year-old son do this. I want so badly, like, baby, don't do this, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. I'm telling him no, like, so much. And I know that who we become is part of what our conditioning process is. I have to just sit back and go, okay, he needs to do it on his own. Like, when I think back on my life, if I would have been robbed of some of the hardest things in my life, I probably wouldn't be sitting here having these conversations with you. So those hard things in my life help create the person I am. That's that leverage. So when I think about it, for me, when I wake up, and I told you about this, I think yesterday we were talking about morning rituals. My first 2 things I do is I say what I'm grateful for, and then I set what my intention is for the day. Part of what I set my intention for in the day is based upon me writing my eulogy. Did I talk about writing my eulogy yesterday?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so we won't repeat that too much, but basically what I did is I went to a funeral in 2008, asked myself, if I died tomorrow, who would show up and what would they say? And that was enough for me to go home, write my eulogy. And then in the process, in the middle of the eulogy, it says, Christopher Rausch will have fought for what's right and what's fair. He will have risked for which that mattered, and he will left Earth a better place for who he was and what he did. So I can't control or guarantee that I'm going to live here until I'm 90, 85. I'm 54 right now. I can't guarantee I'm going to be alive for the next 12 hours. So what I can guarantee is that if regrets are my biggest source of leverage, then as long as I'm living that legacy every single day in as many moments as I possibly can, that whenever my time's up, at least I know in that moment, like, if this is the last thing I ever do, in that moment, I will know that I was living my legacy, and then I won't have any regrets, you know, because I always try to be in the moment. Number one, to be present in the moment, like enjoying this, you know, not thinking about what I'm going to do 2 hours from now, or thinking about yesterday, like enjoying this, like, holy shit, this is technology. We're all joined together across the pond, you know, 14 hours away. And we're having this amazing discussion, helping a guy break the world record of, you know, live streaming. That's amazing. That's a cool day, right? How many people get to say they get to do this? So I just live with a curiosity, a sense of adventure, an openness to experience the quote unquote pain of life, because in that pain, that's where the growth is. And if I've grown through all of my quote unquote mistakes and failures, then I'm going to continue to grow as long as I keep pushing myself out of that comfort zone. So I always recommend to somebody, and especially my coaching clients, 1 time a week out of the 7 days a week, just do one thing that gets you out of your comfort zone. If you don't like speaking to people in public, you know, just say hi to the cashier, you know, just do little things, whatever it might be. And as you go do it, you realize that a preconceived notion of what if I fail, or what if people think I'm stupid? I mean, look at me. I look like this every single day, and God is my witness. I say hi to 99% of the people who come within my periphery. Sometimes if they have they're on the phone or something, I don't. I walk my son to school every day, and I say hello, and I say good morning. I'm like, how are you doing? You know, even though I look rough, like I might kill you, I walk a 120-pound Doberman too. So it's like, if you look at it, I'm a huge fucking teddy bear. I mean, I'm a sweetheart. So my biggest fear is getting to the end of my life and realizing that I didn't live up to that potential. I didn't leave that mark that I wanted to leave. And so as long as I'm doing that every single day, it may not be perfect, but at least I know that that's something that will get me continuously better throughout my entire life. So yeah, that's my answer for that, is regrets are my biggest fear.
Very, very good one. Just makes me think of something, right?
Yeah.
If you look at people when they die, I haven't done that yet, so I can't speak from experience, right? So for all these people who are like, Matt, you haven't died yet, so you keep your mouth shut. You come back when you have actually died and tell me what you think. But if you
drop dead in the next 10 minutes, are you going to keep broadcasting or not?
I think I'll continue. Yeah, Mario's counting on me. I don't want to disappoint him.
Wow.
Right. The people with the biggest regrets, and now I'm thinking of it, are those people that spend their life avoiding things, whereas people that they avoiding what they fear, versus people that actually chase what they love.
Yes.
I think in the latter, they may have less regrets.
Right. Yeah. If you want to go and have a look at Ayers Rock, then save up and go and have a look at Ayers Rock.
Because you look back at your life different lens, right? So the data set is still the same. There are things that you can look at, that's disappointing, didn't do that. No, you still didn't do it. But the lens becomes like, it's like looking through a window. If you look from the side of the window, your view is different than if you look from the right side of the window out from an angle. It's the same window and it's the same outside, right? So if you're focused on doing things you love, and then at the end there's the reflection, and that will be what you think of. Someone yesterday said, "Don't think of a pink elephant." We're now all thinking about the pink elephant.
You instantly do it, don't you?
Right. So if your focus is on doing things that you love to do, and those are the accomplishments, you'll have an equally sized data set probably as the things you didn't accomplish. Well, probably the things you didn't accomplish is bigger because your potential is unlimited.
Yep.
Your time to reach the potential is the barrier, right? That's what we need to get through. So maybe, I don't know. I'll tell you after I actually hit that moment, and I'll come back and tell you my experience.
Okay, Matt. I'm gonna be like, okay, who's that guy in my corner in my room? That's Matt. Okay.
Yeah. my fear is I may disappoint you and haven't found a way to reach you yet. Then, but we'll see. But
we'll have to buy one of the new phones.
Well, I'll throw a spanner in the works. But I have a regret which I can't do anything about. And there's I couldn't change anything even if I wanted to, because I didn't get to maximize my IQ at school because of the situation, which I didn't realize how bad it was at the time, but I know now. But I went to nursing, but I should have been probably doing medicine probably.
Well,
I did 3 at maths and got 149 out of 150, and that's without going to class.
Right.
So,
but you have helped people. Maybe you've helped more people in more ways now than you would have if you started medicine.
Yeah, I probably have.
Right? So the situation doesn't change.
Yeah. Don't forget, our 2 kids are both smart.
Yeah.
And you've done an enormous amount to help them out.
Yeah.
And they're, I don't know, they're miles ahead of where they could have possibly been.
Yeah. But I just didn't want them to fall in the same basket.
So you have used that experience of, a tough time, done a 180, and taught the kids how to, look after themselves and be clever.
Yeah, try to avoid the same situation.
So that they don't fall into that same trap.
Yeah. But just saw a spanner in the works, that was all.
Yeah, well, you're allowed to throw spanners.
Yeah. So what's the next?
Or wrenches, as they call them in America.
And we'll throw them back.
Yeah. I'm waiting.
All right. Next question.
You still there, Chris?
Yeah.
Chris I'm here. I'm just showing everybody what the live stream looks like on the website. So I'm just sharing the screen so they can see you guys all sitting there. I guess Mario's out taking a break, so I'm just sharing.
Mario's having a rest. He's I don't know how many hours he's I don't know, a lot. He's done a lot of hours, guys.
It's
I'm the
lifetime
guy
of
with the
podcasts.
long hair on the right-hand side of your screen. Put my left arm up. It takes forever to come through. Matt's to my
I'm the guy with the hair parted in the middle,
left.
in a circular
there,
pattern.
that's me putting my arm up now. Matt's to my left with short hair, and the supervisor's over on the other side of the desk.
You can't see me, haha.
No, we can now.
Yeah, we can now.
Bugger.
I've got the main camera on.
Yeah.
Oh, bugger.
So it is a bit delayed because you see on the main camera Lord Pig raising his hand, but that was about 30 seconds ago.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
yeah.
So there is a bit of a delay.
That's quite.
It's going to
quite
outer
good,
space
isn't
and
it?
back.
It's
Come
quite
on.
They say time travel isn't real, but it certainly
Oh, it
is.
certainly is. Yeah,
Certainly is.
it's going backwards at the moment.
All right.
Yeah.
That's okay.
How? Let's start with you, Lord Pig. This is a question
Far
for
away,
all
far
of us,
away.
but you got to be the first. So, how important is it to be real / or authentic, especially to yourself? And I think the last bit of that question is the hard one. So, how important is it to be real, authentic, especially to yourself?
Well, this goes back to my theory of flat tires. If you're accepting that you might have a flat tire, then you will move forward on that issue. You will say, either the kids are mucking up, or I'm doing poorly at work, or whatever. It doesn't really matter what the issue is. As long as you're willing to look at it, you will then have the opportunity to fix it. If you're not willing to look at it, how can you fix it? It's impossible.
True that.
Fix your tires.
Fix your tires.
Acknowledge your tires.
Keep an eye on your tires even. You
Very
might be lucky. You might not have a flat tire. You might be mighty lucky. But guess what? You might have you might have one that's just a bit flat, needs a bit of air. That's all. I know I'm using something we all understand. Well, if you own a car anyway.
I like it.
But it's a very it really applies to your own inner being and your own mental health.
Yeah.
So true.
And I've worked for 35 years in a psych hospital, and I saw so many people not dealing, and I'm not talking about patients, I'm talking about staff not dealing with their own flat tires. And guess what? They are still, 35 years later, they're still having trouble because they don't see that they've got a problem. Why would an alcoholic fix their problem if they don't accept there's a problem?
Exactly.
Why would a heroin addict? Why would someone who speeds? Why would someone who dedicates 1 million hours a week on the radio? Why would they stop doing it if they don't realise it's a problem?
Yeah.
They wouldn't. It's that simple.
So be honest in your self-reflection, and don't look through a distorted mirror. Talk to people that are honest with you, and don't dismiss them as like, oh, you're just negative and attacking me. That's what you hear.
That's what you hear, Matt. It really is. That's what you hear.
Yeah, I think it's hard to hear from other people on what we are not doing right. I mean, I find it still hard. I mean, I'll be honest, right? It's like criticism. It's like, oh yeah, when you go for your review, when it's still in corporate life, and you get your review, right? And like, oh yeah, this is all great, and here is some things you should improve. And it's like, you don't want to hear that, right? You're not like, hey, I'm here supposed to, talk about how well I did. Why are you? What are you saying?
I'm not comfortable with that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But it's actually the more valuable stuff, because the things you're doing well, great, that's a reinforcement, but you're not going to change it because it's start, stop, continue. Like, okay, continue that part. That's the easiest thing. You're already doing it.
Of course.
The criticism comes with the start and the stop. You should stop doing that and start doing this, and that is the change. So yeah, absolutely. That's the flat tire, is someone telling you what the true, what their perception of you is, what you need to change, and then going back and they say, okay, let me unpack that. because it may not be, it's their perception still, right? Perception is reality for the other person, but it doesn't mean that that's the actual factual diagnosis.
That is also true, because their perception may be wrong.
Well, it probably is, but you should still take value out of it, because there's a reason they have that perception. You still need, the diagnosis needs to go deeper. So, for instance, I got a runny nose. Okay, well, put a cork in it or blow your nose or whatever it is. But why do I have it? And then you go through further, and you go, okay, let's unpack that. Like, gee, I really don't like you having a runny nose. Maybe you should wipe it. Right? I don't like watching that. Okay,
it's a shame people didn't think like that during COVID, didn't it?
Well, you couldn't see it because people were wearing the.
But there's a lot of people that refused to wear masks, or, you know, they were crook and they'd still go to work knowing they were crook.
But that was pre-COVID as well.
Yes.
If you have the flu, you don't show up at work because you make everybody else sick, right? So that's just that didn't change.
No, and you hear so many people say, "Oh, I don't want to take a sickie because I got the flu, because then I'll run out of sickies, and I want to go to the footy next week." Oh, really? Wake up!
All right, Chris. How about yourself? How do you stay true to yourself and be authentic? How important is that? Let me do the question again from the beginning. It's getting late. How important is it to be real and authentic, especially to yourself?
That question is very special to me as well, because I mean, look at the way I look. I was a suit and tie speaker for many years. I was, like I said before in one of my other answers, I was very prescriptively attuned to who my audience was and what I needed to do for them to make them happy. And like I said, in my 30s, I found myself drinking quite a bit. And one of my friends called me a high functioning alcoholic. And I'm like, well, that seems kind of like harsh. You know, I knew why I used alcohol. At least I thought I knew why I used alcohol. But literally when I sat there and I said, okay, I'm going to take the next 2 months and I'm not going to drink. This was way back in my early 30s. And I sat there and I said, okay, from January to my birthday, February 26th, I'm not going to drink. And I'm going to like peel away the covers, if you will, and really find out maybe what the real reason why is that I drink. And what I quickly come to find out is I wasn't happy with myself. I was happy with my success. I was happy with the validation. I was happy with the accolades. I was happy with the financial situations of my life. But inside I was broken, and I was hurt, and I was alone. On the outside, I was confident. I was the answer man. I was like, you could give Chris anything and he'll do it. He'll be happy about it. But on the inside, I was like, man, I'm not being true to who I am. I'm letting these people run over me. I'm agreeing with people I disagree with. You know, I just felt dirty and ugly inside. And it was about 2013 when I finally decided to get around people who are brighter and smarter than me, because I was always the smartest one in the room. People would come to me for the advice. I'd feel great. I was helping people, getting that validation. But then I went and joined a mastermind, and I got around a lot of brilliant people. And we were talking about what our biggest issues were, what our biggest dreams were. And I said, I would love to be able to go on stage just looking how I normally look without having to worry about what people are going to say about me and not fitting in. And so people started asking me the question, well, why don't you? Why is it that you're fitting in? Why is it that you're part of the crowd? Why is it? And so through that process of getting real honest with myself, right? It's crazy how we think that we can lie to ourselves and get away with it. You know, I was just talking with a new coaching client of mine the other day. And I said, do you realize that you're lying to yourself, trying to get yourself to agree with something that you know in your heart, in your soul is wrong? Now, what can happen in your life, in your happiness, in your freedom, and your inner peace if you stop doing that stuff? If you stop being incongruent with your values and your morals and your ethics? What alignment can really happen when you sit there and you get serious about saying, listen, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm a beautiful person. Yeah, I may talk fast. Yeah, I may talk in circles. But is my heart there? Is my willingness to learn and to be receptive to situations? Is my willingness to do hard work and blood, sweat, and tears and help? Yeah. All the other stuff to try to fit in, that was making me miserable. So all the validation and the external stuff was great. But on the inside, at the end of the day, who do we have? We have ourselves. And so for me, it is so massively important. The earlier, the sooner we do it. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be hard. It's going to be humiliating. You know, for me to really get honest with myself and go, why do I need this validation? Oh, because I didn't get it when I was a kid. Oh, because of this happened. You know, and it's easily for some people to go into that victim mindset and go, see, it's everybody else's fault. It's not my fault. This is why I'm all screwed up. See, feel sorry for me. It works. I like the victim part. You know, and then they take their meds and they sit there and go, oh, poor me, poor me. Will somebody please pay attention to me? For me, I had to go, okay, what do I have to do to get real? What do I have to do to stop this BS? because at the end of the day, I'm not going to live the rest of my life to try to have this external validation when I know that it's internally is where we have the peace and the freedom. And God Source Universe started having me do interview shows. And so I used to have a radio show that was called the Kick-Ass Radio Show. I did it for 3 years. And so I started interviewing these successful, amazing people. And I started seeing these patterns of success. And every single one of them was, I'm who I am and I'm proud of it. And that's what the world needs right now. The world doesn't need another one of Jerry, another one of Todd, another one of Shelly, another one of Tammy. The world needs who you are, because there's 8 billion people out there in the world. And now more than ever, we can connect with one another and show that we can be uniquely ourselves. So we don't have to be miserable inside, because when we're miserable inside, what do we want to do? We want to shoot down the next person that walks in and goes, hey, isn't everything great? No, it's not. But when we're inside and we're feeling warm and we're feeling good about ourselves, we're able to lay our head on the pillow at night and go, wow, I really gave it my best today. I really made a difference in the world today. I really lived up to my legacy, that, to be a great example for my son. I really lived up the legacy to do and fight more in my marriage, whatever it might be. That's where the beautiful parts of life happen, because even as I get older, I've got a lot of amazing stuff. All for me matters is the moments with my family, the moments with my friends, being able to talk to you guys and be able to make an impact in the world, to know that my voice and my actions maybe change one person's perspective today. I mean, I've saved tons of people's lives in my life. I've had conversations with people who were in the process of wanting to kill themselves. I've talked them out of it. Just be real with yourself. Be honest with yourself. Am I happy? Yes or no? And I'll share this thing and I'll shut up. Over COVID, my way of giving back was being able to give out free complimentary coaching sessions for people. Just whatever they had, whatever issue they had, I would just spend an hour, 45 minutes to an hour with them talking about that, and just letting them know that people care, and let them know that, your problem isn't that overwhelming. It is a problem, but here's some steps to take through it. And so I probably did a couple of hundred of these, probably over 2 years. And about the 15th one in, I heard my little whisper, my little God Source Universe whisper that came over me and said, ask them this question. And so I had to stop people. I'm like, okay, I'm going to ask you a question. We're on Zoom. So I'm going to ask you a question. I don't want you to think about it too much, but I want you to give me your honest answer, no matter what it is. Right? And these people are like, okay. Because I cleared it with them before. I said, is anything off the table that you don't want to talk about? Because if we're going to talk about your issues, if I have to find out that you're molested, then, if there's something you don't want to talk about, let me know, because I'll have trust and concern for that. And then so I'll sit there and say, do you love yourself? Yes or no? And as I'm asking this question, guys, I'm thinking to myself, God, what a stupid question. Everybody loves themselves, right? 75% of these 200 people there was only a handful who were like, yeah, of course I love myself, Chris. Yeah, here's what I do for they had the answer. You could tell there was congruency in their facial expressions and everything else. But 75% of these people were like, well, yeah, for the most, yeah. No, I'm like, no, it's yes or no. Do you love yourself? Yes or no? Well, no. Okay, what are you doing to fix the aspects of yourself that you don't love? Or are you hiding from them in your short-term gratifications, hoping, wishing, and praying that something's going to change? Yeah, I guess I'm hiding. Okay, how's that working out for you? Because it's going to be there. Whenever you come back to it, it's going to be there. So in 10 years' time, do you want to look back and go, wow, it's still here. It's still chasing me around. And I've carried this stress and this weight in all my relationships. And that's probably why I haven't found the right person or the right job. And that's why I'm still unhealthy, because I keep running from the truth that's right here within my side and within myself. Person after person after person broke down, like, oh my God, I never really thought about it that way. I didn't want to go that place because it's scary and it's vulnerable. Like, yeah, it is. But on the other side of it, when you're just being you and you wake up every day and you're just being you and you don't apologize for it, and you understand that if people don't get you, it's okay. It's not an offense to you. It's just you're not that person. I know I'm not that person for a lot of people. It's no big deal. Let's go find somebody you do like. It's not a big deal. So I think that's important, at the end of the day, is being congruent with yourself, having that legacy and that legacy and that vision for yourself, but being honest, just being painfully honest. It's going to hurt, but it's going to be so worth it on the other side. What do you guys think?
Wow.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, mate. You don't have to be everybody's favourite. You're not going for the presidency or the prime ministership. You don't have to be everyone's favourite.
Yeah.
As long as you're the most important person to be happy with is you as number one. And then, your missus and your kids or your husband and then your friends, and go from there. Basically.
Agreed.
Perfect. All right, the supervisor.
Okay. It is important to be real. you mentioned before, Matt, about the like your reviews at work. Well, like I'm a nurse manager at work,
Mm-hmm.
and when I do all the staff's reviews, the first thing I always ask them, which catches them out. Look, I know it's coming to me, but what could you have done better?
Mm.
And they'll go, well, nothing. I think.
Ooh, plateaued in your
Yeah,
career.
they're all perfect.
Well, I'll give you the truth. Like, if that's what you can come back with, well, you need some help, obviously. But they obviously can't keep it real honest to themselves. But yeah, there's always something you can do better.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. And that is actually what it is, right? Being authentic is seeing your own flaws, and then not necessarily flaws, but things that you would have done differently if you would do them now.
Yeah.
If you could replay time, which obviously we can't, but if you could replay time, how would you do X, Y, Z differently?
Yeah.
Would you turn it to ABC?
Mm.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But I probably did the wrong thing in COVID at work, but to me, I did the right thing.
Uh-huh.
So the ward I run, it's psychogeriatric.
Uh-huh.
And like so COVID, so the patients in nursing homes are all stuck in their nursing homes, not allowed to see their family, not allowed this, not allowed that, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Very hard on people. Very hard on people.
It was incredible that.
So we had a couple of patients, and they all seemed to take. They all must have been ringing each other. Your turn, your turn, your turn. And they'll go and tell their staff at the nursing home, I'm suicidal, I want to kill myself. And so they put me in an ambulance and send them to us. And they come in and the doctors go, oh, there's nothing wrong, send them back. And after a couple of days, I said, let's leave a week. We'll send them back on, they can go back. Let them have 1 week here. And see their families.
What was that?
What was that? We heard some.
Sorry about that. I got a message on my phone. I didn't realize my. Yeah.
But basically, they come in and they can come and see their family, and they went back, and their mental health was better.
Yeah.
So it's probably the wrong thing to do on the bed, but
well, did it impact them positively?
Yeah.
So was it then the wrong thing to do?
No.
No,
it wasn't. I think it was the
go.
right thing. And the doctors went, that's a good way of looking at it, and they were more than happy.
Well, you and me both know how the public health system works in Australia. If they'd needed that bed for an emergency, they would have used it.
Exactly.
So the bed was available to that patient for their personal emergency. So that helped that person and their family. And I would imagine it made your staff feel better about their job in difficult times.
I hope it did.
So if you can make your staff feel better in nursing, then the ultimate winners are the actual patients.
Correct.
They're the ones who win if the staff are happy.
Correct.
But we've come through a time that is without precedent.
I will never see this again.
It's
I
certainly hope that we've learned our lesson. My wife is a registered nurse, also registered in nurse immunizer, so she's actually certified to give people injections, vaccines, and all these.
Yeah,
throwing darts at people.
Yeah, and let's live voodoo dolls, but you're the doll, right?
Yeah.
Let's see, let's stick a needle in, let's see what happens.
Yep.
Now, so obviously there's a whole process in that. My wife worked in the hospital, and the COVID ward was next to it.
Yeah.
Every day we saw on the news how many people are dying, how many people are in the COVID wards. It's all full, there's no beds. And I said, there's no one here. There is literally nobody here. So why are they in all the other hospitals and not here in this COVID? This is emergency ward set up, and no one is here. She didn't understand.
COVID,
And I go like, well, whatever you believe, that's a data point, right? Unless a politician comes to me like, your wife is lying. Like, okay, you say that to me outside.
Yeah.
She's not lying. That's what the reality is. That's a data point.
Yeah.
There's no one here. Now, there could be it's in other hospitals. They go like, okay, so how do you divide the patients then? Why are they? Because that's the COVID ward for that area, which was also in a lockdown over Christmas because there was so much COVID going on.
Mm-hmm.
Just there's no one. Then she got the instructions on how to give the vaccines.
Yeah.
Right. There is no informed consent. She was not allowed to give that. Like, hey, it's on emergency use authorization, which is it still is, by the way. It's not officially.
That's
approved.
right. That's right.
No, you can't say that. Well, we actually have to say that according to the registration requirements, right? You can't be a nurse immunizer and not say this.
Yeah.
You're not allowed. She actually has a warning letter. All you can say is the leaflet from the New South Wales government, safe, effective, and free. Well, we don't know it's safe if it's not been tested for very long. I mean, that's reality. You can believe it or not believe it. It doesn't matter. It normally takes years to see the side effects.
Yeah.
Is it effective? Well, they came out that we actually never tested for transmission. Right? That's being said in the European Parliament on the road by Pfizer.
Yeah.
President. We actually never tested that. We were operating the speed of science. Okay, that's a term I don't really understand, but okay. Let's say it's all good intention, but you can't then say it's effective if it's not, right? And free, well, when the government says it's free, then no, there is no such thing as free because the government has no income stream other than tax, right? That's the thing. So there's no free.
Well, what they're saying is it's free to the user, to the end user.
Which is the taxpayer. Yeah. So therefore, no, it's safe, effective, and you paid for it. Okay, that's now 1/3 of the inaccuracies are gone. Right? You already paid for it, you might as well take it. So she left the nursing profession, not because they said now you need to get injected, but she was forced to give that injection under that circumstance. Right? The other thing is in the law, it's written here, if you are under duress to get something, you're not allowed to give the injection as a immunizer. So if someone comes in, I don't really want to get it, but my employer says if I don't, I'll be fired. The doctor or the nurse is by law not allowed to give it.
Wow.
It has to be your choice. And that is universal, by the way. That's not just here in Australia. That is a human right. It's actually signed up to a code for that.
Yeah. But
right?
The funny thing is,
it's all out of the window.
But the nurses have to have it. Otherwise, they haven't got a job either.
That's right. The whole thing.
So that's what Matt's saying.
That's what I'm saying. That whole thing is like, first of all, we don't know it's safe. Now, the data now is coming out. It may not be, right? And again, you look at data. Correlation is not causation. So I am, looking at it from the other side as well. But there's enough for it that I'm a little bit concerned. Just look around you. How often do you now see a patient transport, the ambulance? I see 4 or 5 a day when I'm driving. That's not normal, right?
Depends where you're seeing.
Well, if you're living next to the hospital, okay, sure. But
Yeah.
Right, they're everywhere. Just now, just on the way here at 3 a.m., I saw 2.
Okay, no, just tell me, Dave. It's not.
Yeah, that must have been.
Right?
We saw 3 or 4 police cars. So there must have been a car accident somewhere. That's my guess.
Well, usually they have their sirens on. But I see it every day now. Every day. You see defibrillators everywhere.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, boom, defibrillators. They just pop up.
Yeah.
Because apparently people now are having heart attacks because of the whistles from footy. They get scared and boom.
Oh, what a load of rubbish.
That was in the news at some stage. Like,
really?
I'm not making any conclusions. I just said, maybe we should look at something. And they go, no, nothing to see there. Right? So,
Can't we just be happy that we've got defibrillators? Do we have to have some made-up excuse?
Well, I don't mind having defibrillator, but why are they all of a sudden here? Why is there...
Oh, the cost has come down.
Well, the cost has come down.
The cost of them came down enormously.
And also, I remember it was way back in the early 2000s. They realised that the best thing for some type of heart attacks is the first thing you need. What works the best is like is like AEDs. That works. That's what other causes are the drugs that work the best. So it's all which type of and why you had the heart attack.
Yeah.
And so that is why they become more. Costs come down, and that's why they become more available to everyone to have. Now,
Well, it's sort of an each way bet, because they got cheaper, they started selling more. They then discovered that a lot of heart attacks can be prevented without actually doing CPR by simply using an AED. And the next thing you know, all the shopping centres want one.
Yep.
Every ward in the hospital gets one.
We see them in our parks right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They're everywhere. So again, causation is correlation and causation are different things.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it's complete. For me, it's just data points.
Yeah.
And
Well, I know where you're coming from.
I'm coming from the things that my wife is telling me.
Yeah.
The things that I look at like, wow, we actually have an excess mortality since 2021. That's huge. That's not minor, right? It's not being reported, but it's come from the ABS itself.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like made up data.
All right, I'll put it this way. This is what I did when I first went to Common, which is mental health. Like, and they all have one on every ward, which I went for your bank dinner, so not every one in every ward, okay. And then I went, all right, no, I got it. Actually, having one on every, so the staff said we don't want to use it. I said, well, given that where Common is and how long it takes to get an ambulance, blah blah blah. I said the AED is your best friend, really, because what you can do if you're worried, you think that might be something to do with the heart, you put the pads on,
and it will tell you.
And it's giving you a tracing of the heart, and then it can also say, well, it's not actually a heart thing.
No, it might be. Actually, I mean, it could be indigestion. You don't know.
It could be.
I said I don't know what the background. I'm just putting data points together. I'm not making a conclusion because that's too early for me to do. I just think like, maybe someone should look into it. But anyway,
that's why I threw.
Yeah.
That's how I threw the people said I won't touch it, and that's how I threw it back to them, and they went, I like that idea, and they're doing it.
And this is coming back to my answer on being authentic: is having discussions that are not necessarily the most popular to have.
Yeah.
But I just want to. I'm curious. I'm just curious. I'm not going in like it's this or that. I just want to. Okay.
Absolutely.
What is it? What is the background of this? Because the data points that I'm being fed, and you already mentioned it. Don't watch the news. It's rubbish.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's rubbish.
Yeah, a lot of it is.
We don't tell you what to think and what to think. No, we tell you exactly. No, not how to think. What to think. Here is your conclusion of the things that we will tell you today.
Yeah.
Right. And I do like, well, for me, the authentic and personally as well, I don't like criticism. Obviously, I'm perfect in any way there is, and so humble. And the only thing is maybe delusional sometimes. That maybe I should improve on that. But so there's always something you can improve on yourself and looking at it and you go like, is this the right way? Is the wrong way? I say things the wrong way sometimes, and I make them feel that because people. They forget what you do to them, but they never forget how you make them feel. Right? So for me is yes, it is super important to be authentic, but in a way that there's this stream, and Chris, maybe you heard of that thing. It came from the US as radical authenticism or radical honesty or whatever it is, where people just say things like because I believe it and I'm gonna say it, and not everybody.
It was radical forgiveness. It's a great book. I was on mute. I didn't realize they're yelling.
I'm okay for that. No, it's the radical honesty or something like that. Someone is like, new management style. I'm just going to be radically honest with you and tell you what I'm thinking right now. And I go, maybe.
Yeah, there are better ways to do it.
Yeah, like you cannot. I mean, people don't forget how you make them feel.
Yeah.
Right.
So true.
So maybe we actually have developed these filters so that we don't ostracize ourselves from the community by being radically honest. In other words, abrasive and just a terrible person to be around because I make everybody around me feel bad because that's just how I feel because I get a lift of putting you down. Because there are some people, the only way to lift themselves up is actually not lifting themselves up. It's actually right now, relative to you, I'm better because I'm pushing you down. So I don't have to improve myself. It's almost the factory. If you work in a factory and it's a very you come in there as a new employee and they say don't work too hard because they raise the bar for all of us. That type of attitude that you sometimes see. I'm not saying that's in every factory, but I've been in places where they actually work like that. Like don't work too hard. You raise the bar for all of us. We don't want to do it, right? So if it's too hard to lift yourself up. Then you have to push other people down. And I think those people are not the authentic people with themselves, and it doesn't mean you always have to say exactly what you think at that particular moment. It just, you take a step like, hey, how is this going to make someone feel when I'm saying this in this way or whatever?
It doesn't hurt to be honest, but if you know that pure honesty is going to be abrasive, then maybe it's okay just to,
package it,
chill it a bit, Anyway, guys, it's just after 5:30 here in Sydney, Australia at Balkan Hills. Mario's doing his Guinness World Records attempt for the longest audio-only live stream. Started at 11 a.m. on the 29th. That's Sydney. Mario's supersonically tired, the poor thing. And on air right now, Mario's inside the studio with us. I'm Lord Peg. You're the supervisor. You're Matt. And Chris, you're in
Southern California.
Yeah, the other coast.
And Chris is on I can't say the name of your.
It's Raw and Unscripted. Raw and Unscripted with Christopher Rausch.
Raw and Unscripted. There is about 13 and a half hours to go before Mario, with help from the rest of us.
Isn't it 12 and a half hours? Doesn't it finish at 6 p.m.?
Something like that.
Yes, so it's 12 and a half hours, Mario, not 13 and a half.
Oh, it says 13 on the computer there.
Well, that's
And
fine.
whatever.
It's more than 2.
Yeah, there's a few hours left to go. As I say, it's 5:30 in the morning here in Sydney. Yeah, and we're hoping, like Billy-O, that Mario knocks this out of the park.
He will. He is.
He is. Yeah,
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
This is in the bag. We're gonna make it.
Oh, for sure
We're
we are.
going to make it.
For sure we are.
And maybe this is a question to keep Mario on his toes to Mario.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And what stresses you out, and how do you handle it?
Oh my God! This very moment.
Not,
A question like that.
you want me to answer that for you, Mario?
Yes,
please,
please,
Mario.
Not sleeping.
Yeah, like,
That was easy, wasn't it? 2 words.
I'm dreaming I was sleeping again.
Yeah. No, you do look tired, mate.
Yeah, like no, I slowly I have the shivers and I'm feeling cold, and I think the body heat now just want to sleep. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's the third morning, so I'm more than 48 hours now awake. So that's the without sleeping. So, but what stressed me out? I think that incapacity of others to understand that the life is far too short, and we make it too complicated things to live the life. I think that's that mentality and that I don't know how to say, because it's like, apologies, my brain is a little bit slow. But people complicating things, they should not be complicated.
Yes.
I think we do that. Yeah.
And we do this with such a pleasure to make things so complicated.
Some people almost thrive on it, don't they? They love the drama and the complications and the chaos, and then the next thing you know, they're whinging about how dreadful their life is, and you think the only reason your life's dreadful is because you insist on it being dreadful. I've never heard you say a good word about anything.
That is correct. That is correct. Yeah.
True.
You see it way too often. And getting back to what Matt was saying about the news earlier, we don't have, I wish they would have more good news stories. Like if you go back 20 years, there was always a good news story at the end of the news.
Yeah.
It'd be about, some kid's soccer team, playing well on the weekend or whatever. That didn't, someone catching a fish, someone, whatever it was, something local. And it was always a good news story, but they don't seem to do it anymore.
They do it in the country, but
Oh, in the scrub they do, yeah.
like your NBN and all your other small town news. They've got their news first, and then they've got the national news.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
So you get the good news stories there.
But should you have to live outside of Sydney or Melbourne or Brisbane to get that?
No.
No.
But good news doesn't sell newspapers.
No, it doesn't,
We are
unfortunately.
programmed to look at the bad things, because the bad things, they can kill you.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, what's that slithering in the grass? Oh, that is a snake. Let me get away with that. Right? That's the bad news story. It can get you.
Yeah, yeah.
And we get, and I do agree with you, if you watch the news, it's all bad news and the world is going to end. And isn't this terrible? And I go, oh, that's actually, these parts here, they don't affect us.
Yeah.
Right? It's terrible. Let me be clear, right? It is terrible. But the good news angle would that be like, well, we're actually doing something about it, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Right? But it's the positive news doesn't sell the paper.
No.
And with the social media, if you don't get angry, you don't get engagement, right? I figured it out. If your business model is getting people on the platform and staying on the platform, meaning reacting to what you see, they do that more when they're angry. So the algorithm is stupid. It just tells you like, hey, maximize clicks. Okay.
Yeah.
I figured out that if this type of news makes you angry, therefore you stay on the platform, I'm going to give you more of that news.
More bad news.
I want you more angry. Yeah. Right? Because that's money.
Or
your
more
anger is $1.
More ridiculous information that people, probably 1% of people actually believe, but a lot of them jump on it because it's stupid.
Yeah, possible. Yep. It's if we're being led by algorithms. We had a discussion on AI before, and I think we're already, the AI is getting smarter. Well, I think more dangerous as well, but it's getting smarter. But we are already led astray by stupid AI that just optimizes clicks, and we let our lives be run by it.
Yeah, you were talking about that at about 2:30.
And it's a rough, yeah.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah.
You were.
Not 2:30. I was here at 7. So at 3. 2:30. When did I come in?
Just before 3.
What day is it?
You were talking about that at 2:30.
Yeah. So roughly around that time. But it's we are already being led by AI. Right? So if people go like, oh, AI, the sky is falling. I'm not sure if the sky is falling. It is dangerous. I do believe it is dangerous because we let it to be dangerous. So and to hook into that question, what stresses me out is we're looking at a false guidance of an algorithm that we programmed, that is programmed to maximize our engagement, so we engage more, and then you get into that feedback loop. That's the only thing that really stresses me out, because there's some stuff in there that I have very little control over. Right? It's very little control over that, because I can't control the entire world, except for the International Do Not Be Stupid Day. Yeah. That would be one of the aspects.
15th of
December, right? Maybe we switch off the social media and actually start looking at our own things and think about it before we take an action, or before we have an emotion, right? I'm going to be angry, I'm going to be engaging with this. I need to tweet about it, or I need to Facebook about that.
How would some people survive without TikTok and Facebook and all?
I'm still here.
Yeah, I use Facebook probably 3 times a year.
I don't have a Facebook account. I don't exist.
No?
No.
You're made of plasticine.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Now it's starting to make sense.
I'm actually a hologram. I don't have Facebook. I don't have what's the photograph thing where only people with perfect lives on there.
Instagram or something? Yeah.
Yes.
No, I don't know that.
I don't have TikTok. Never had that. The only network I'm still on is LinkedIn, and I try to avoid it as well, because the stuff that gets, if I go through my LinkedIn feed, you have people that are the fake it till you make it crowd, right? Like, hey, look at me being successful. If you were that successful, you probably wouldn't be posting on LinkedIn every 5 minutes how successful you are.
That's exactly right.
That's just number one. Then you have to, I stand with everything that's fashionable people but I have no clue what's going on.
Yeah. Right. Well, what absolutely bamboozles me
good morning, like full of energy,
is the number of people that put photos of their lunch on Facebook.
I had one today. Here's my lunch.
But doesn't it look yummy?
No.
Just saying, it's Anne here from Pick a Mix.
Yeah.
Folks,
Anne from Pick a Mix, another show here on Alive 905 has rolled up. With
Macca's.
It is 5:45. Thank you, Anne. And we're here for Mario's Guinness World Record attempt at the longest audio-only live stream. Started at 11 Sydney time, 11 a.m. on the 29th of April, and we've got, the computer says 13 hours and 15 minutes to go, or thereabouts.
Are you going to make it, Mario?
There's no other choice.
He is going to make it. He is done. It is in the
Oh, have
can.
we got Ainsley as well?
No, this is Chris from
Christopher Rausch from the
California.
US.
What's up?
Chris.
What's up? We're Raw and Unscripted right now. We're live broadcasting across Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
We're
Yeah.
everywhere.
We're everywhere.
This is the world has been taken over by the world record longest
Yeah.
broadcast.
And we're writing a book. We're writing a book right now, too, by the way.
Yeah,
So
that's-
talk about positive
Yeah.
news, right? This should be in the news broadcast today.
It should be. I believe Channel 7 here in Sydney. Tell me if I'm wrong, Mario, please. Is it Channel 7?
Channel 7. And
Channel 7 here in Sydney are doing.
Yeah, it should be here.
I assume we will be on the news, or you'll be on the news.
Yeah, already on news. We already on news.
You'll probably be asleep when that's all happening.
Yeah, it is.
He's gonna go on Channel 7 and go, "Hi, I'm Christopher Rausch.
Yeah, Christopher.
Yeah, that'll work. That'll work.
I'm the no
Have you got
excuses coach."
face masks for sale, Chris?
We need a spare bandana.
Yeah.
Spare bandana.
Christopher Rausch bandana.
Oh,
Yeah.
Christopher Rausch. So how did you go with the questions? Where we are?
We are still with what stresses you out and how do you handle it. And
Okay.
we had yourself, I hooked into it, Sue.
Go on, Sue.
Every day's different. There's no one thing I can say. It just all happens on the time, people around you, like idiots on the road.
Mm.
Oh, they're idiots on the road.
Yeah.
I'm here now, so
Never noticed.
Oh,
it's,
okay.
it's a little bit safer.
Oh, good to know. But yeah, so it just varies from time to time.
Right. So,
What stresses me out is being late. I cannot handle being late. And if I start getting lost, you're driving down the highway and you take the wrong turning, gosh, by the end of it, I'm almost in tears.
yeah.
Because I can't stand being late. I've always got to be on time. So
I'm
that's
with
what really
That's-
stresses
I'm
me
with
out.
you 100%.
Yeah, there's nothing worse.
There was so when I was younger, March, 20 years ago, I think I started. I was doing Aikido, and our teacher had this whole thing. If you were late, even 30 seconds, right, you would sit there in the corner until he calls you. You can't enter the dojo until he actually calls you.
So what's
And-
Aikido?
Aikido is a Japanese martial arts, relatively new.
Oh,
It came
okay.
from the 1920 around that,
Mhm.
that time, and it's basically an amalgamation of jiu-jitsu and other grappling martial arts and the samurai sword arts, so Iaido and Jodo.
I did Japanese drumming.
Okay.
Taiko.
Oh,
Mm.
that is brilliant. We
Mm.
spoke about it. I think yesterday night. One of
Oh,
my
okay.
favorite Japanese drumming, taiko drumming bands, Onukoza. I have actually listened to that for pleasure. Not
Yeah.
many people do that.
Oh,
My
okay,
wife,
well-
not so much. She's kind of like,
She's
nah,
not.
just take that away.
Well, I've
But-
got
but
I've
my
got a drum
teachers-
at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You still have neighbors?
Yes, I do,
Okay.
and they've called the police before. just on my 50th. I just went out a party.
Beautiful. It's
I
a very
played the drums at
complicated
3 in the
rhythm, right?
morning.
It's not easy. It's very hard.
Yeah, it's a good exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my teacher then said, that the secret to not being late is leave on time. And you go like, yeah. And then you think, oh, wait a minute. This is actually deeper than what it sounds, right? It sounds very.
Mhm.
The secret to never being late is leave on time.
Yeah.
And he could relate that back to the whole Aikido stuff. Like, hey, if someone attacks you and you're struggling because you just didn't leave on time, you weren't ready, you're rushing your movements. But it applies to everything. If you like, I've never been here before, I get lost, right? So I leave earlier when I'm lost. I just rather sit in the car
Yeah. I
and
think
do some
most
other
people
stuff
do.
than stressing out
Yeah.
that I'm gonna be late.
Most people that don't like being late will
Mm.
sit in the car for hours.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, even this morning coming here, and I thought, well, I said I'd be here at 6. You've got to get here a bit earlier, so. And of course, we have to stop and get the Macca's run as everybody else is doing. Macca's is going to be doing a fortune, aren't they?
Mario actually gets a postcard from the general manager of McDonald's. Like, Mario, can you please do another podcast because we're a little bit behind on our quota this year.
Yeah.
So.
Especially the night time one.
Yeah.
All right.
So do you have a question? What are your 3 hot buttons that set you off? What's the hot buttons mean?
So
Things that get
Get me
I don't
going.
think I didn't answer. I didn't answer the last one. I didn't answer the what stresses you out.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Don't forget about me just because I'm like 80 million miles away.
I know you're so quiet.
Well, I believe in listening. I believe in listening. I talk a lot. Mario can tell you about that. But you know, when I think about what stresses me out, how do I handle it? Nowadays, not much stresses me out. I mean, I've done so much inner work on myself and been to so many different coaches and healers and therapists and things of that nature. But when I think about when something does trigger me, I don't think about it pissing me off. I think about the trigger. Like, why am I triggered in this particular situation? And ultimately, it comes down to our expectations, right? When you think about, you have a certain amount of expectations for, say, drivers on the road. Okay, I think that drivers on the road are going to use common courtesy and use their turn signal before they have to change a lane. Well, then I get in my car and my expectations are disrupted because people don't feel the need to use their turn signal. So what happens when you have an expectation that's up here and you have the performance that's down here? Everything that's in between that is that frustration, that anger, that anxiety, that everything else that takes us off path from living our true life and living our true brilliancy, because something has happened that it was outside of our expectations and we're taking it personal, right? You know, I think about how many times I used to drive just to work about an hour and a half every day. Sometimes coming home would be 2 or 3 hours. So I sat in traffic a lot. And I sat there and I would find myself, why am I taking it personally that this jackass cut me off? He didn't cut me off. He just cut a car off. But here I'm taking it personal. And then I just invite people, when you have those triggering situations, what am I making that mean about? What am I making that mean about? What am I making that to mean about me? I could talk. I haven't been going for as many hours as you guys have. What am I making that to mean about me? And then digging into that. So I find that proactively adjusting my expectations for things that I believe might trigger me is a great way to handle it. So like here, for example, in my own house, I'm not a neat freak, but I like things put away. I like things neat. If I see a bunch of stuff, you know, piled up everywhere, it gives me anxiety. I don't know what it is. It reminds me of my mother. My mother was a pack rat. So when I go downstairs in my house, and my wife tends to leave things everywhere, if I go downstairs with the expectation, I hope the house is going to be cleaned up, I'm going to walk downstairs and my expectation is going to be diminished, because that's not the fact. It's not the case. Every once in a while, sure. But I have to go out. When I walk out of my door, it's important for me to go, number one, to change my mindset from being an interviewer and being a podcaster to go back to being dad or being husband, because they don't give a shit about what I'm doing up here. They care about the person I'm going to be down there. So I have to, number one, decide who I'm going to be and where I'm going next. Like, I'm going to be dad. Number two, do I have the expectation the house is going to be picked up? If I have that expectation, then I'm going to be disappointed. So I go out down there. I'm like, if the house isn't picked up, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to start picking it up and kind of lead by example. And then hopefully other people will do it. Or I will say something to the rest of the people and say, hey guys, let's spend 15 minutes just kind of clean up the house. You know, we've let it go for the last couple of days. And when I do those things and get that participatory action, then I don't get pissed off. I don't get triggered, because I'm proactively handling that. So that's one of the things I deal with my coaching clients as well, is like trying to identify what those triggers are, what's the deep-rooted meaning in it, and then kind of going from there.
Isn't it, you know, the biggest source of stress for most people, they say, like, oh, you're being held accountable for something, but you don't have control over it. Right?
Yeah.
A lot of things that we're feeling accountable, but we know we don't have control over it. For instance, someone cuts you off in traffic, you don't have control over what other people do, unless you buy a very big scary car. But it's you know, and in the corporate world, they actually design, you know, the badly designed corporation. They make you accountable for things you can't control. So it's easier to control what you do, right? It's like, heaven forbid you meet your targets.
Yeah.
Whereas a good designed organization, actually a sales manager told me once, right? He was managing the global sales team, and he said, you know, Matt, my job in life is to make sure that everybody is able to get the maximum bonus, and I'd love to give it to them all, right? That doesn't mean that I'm going to give it away for free, but it's in their control to get that slice of the pie. And that's, you know, and that feels, you know, the salesperson then has a realistic target they can achieve, because the salesman sets it up that they can actually make that target. And guess what? That team did best. Whereas another team is going, I set the target so high, and that's giving, you know, and only very few people will make it. They actually had net a lesser result, even though that person that made it would have a bigger result, but the team itself would have less. But the truth of it is, they were accountable for things they couldn't actually influence. In other words, the targets were too big to achieve. What do you think about that aspect of stress? Things that you feel accountable for things you can't control.
I personally think that's amazing. I mean, that's such a great insight to be able to sit there and look at that and go, okay, what is in my periphery of control? What is not in my control? And being able to proactively release that and surrender that in your mindset to make sure that that's not an expectation that will wind up in disappointment. So I think you're spot on with that. It's, a lot of things I think about, is something really within my control? Is my son within my control? No, I can have impact on some of his outcomes on things depending on how I feed that information to him or how I interact with him, but I don't have any control over that. And I think we have control over certain things when really we don't. And I think the sooner we surrender and be in this moment, that we don't have to have all those other things that are mitigating our happiness controlling us, right? If I can just let go and go, okay, whatever the moment brings me, I'm going to enjoy it and I'm going to respond to it however I need to. So by doing so, we'll minimize my frustration, my anger, my disappointment. So that's the way I look at things. Like, and when things are going great, I'm one of those people. It's like, man, isn't it beautiful right now? Like, we're having this conversation right all over the world, and we're going up to satellites and binging down. People could see you guys in your room and everything. They could see me here on the camera. I mean, that's pretty amazing. So I love to do that and to surrender that control, because at the end of the day, if we think we have control over something, then what is it that we're running from that we need that control?
I don't think we have much control on anything.
You think?
No, I don't think so. I think because there's too many people around us, too many other things that affect everything. So you think you've got control of a situation, and then somebody else walks in. There's too much. Unless it's just you by yourself in control, it's okay. But if there's other people or other things, you have hardly any control.
But you are in control on how you act on it.
And how you respond to it. I agree 1,000%. Viktor Frankl in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, about being in an Auschwitz camp, that is such a powerful book, because he sits there and illustrates that point. Like, you could do everything in the world to me, but you cannot tell me how I'm supposed to feel.
That's and one thing that stresses me out right now, really stresses me out, is like, do I remember the next question because someone took the paper with the questions away? It's not in my control. I don't know where it is, but I think it is about the 3 hot buttons, and one of mine is like, you took my paper. I got it back now. So the question is, what are your 3 hot buttons, and how do we set it up? That's a dangerous question to answer, because that's a lot of power you're giving people. Like, hey, here's my button, you shouldn't be pressing.
Yeah, you shouldn't be pressing on it.
All right, let's start with you.
Well, I still say the same thing about being late, but I hate people being late. You have friends that you go out for lunch with, and one will arrive half an hour late every single time. And eventually, I actually spoke to this person and said, you're not giving us, you don't think we're not important enough. Everything else around you is important, but we're not, because you're always late. So if you can't make us important, then don't come.
Yeah, and then they say, well, it's only 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes times the 15 people that are waiting for you.
Yeah.
So I think it's lateness is definitely a push button for me.
We have a joke in the Netherlands. So Netherlands is a small country, but we still like to divide it, right? As you do. And we have below the rivers and above the rivers. And below the rivers, from above the rivers, that's where I'm from, we say, like, they're always late. So a meeting over there, no one shows up in time, because the first 15 minutes, someone is always complaining that the rest is late.
So everybody
does. You see the vicious circle in that one, right?
Because then it's 15 minutes. And that one said, oh gosh, yeah, you'd always be late and everything.
So that's button number 1.
That's button number 1. What button number 2? What else drives me? It's so funny, because if I was at home listening to the radio, I'd be going, oh yeah, this and this. But when you're on the radio, it's like, oh no, I can't think. Or with other things.
You got to be honest.
Pardon?
I said, you got to be honest.
I know, but I can't think. I've gone a blank. You know that it is only 6 o'clock in the morning.
It's already 6 in the morning. Well, I'll
tell me yours, and I'll keep thinking.
I actually don't have that many, but I agree with it being late, because it is such disrespectful for everybody that is on time, right? And I don't like the cattle behavior, the corporate speak cattle behavior. So when I still was in corporate world, you could pick up the word of the year by going to the national or the international conference, right? So we had a big conference, like 20,000 people show up, and there's the executives in the center or in the stage and having their rah speech, and it's all ego driven, right? It's not like I'm going to give you information. It's like, hey, look at me being important because I'm having a speech in front of all of you.
Yeah.
Right. The thing that really pissed me off is that someone would say a word. It made no sense whatsoever, as is corporate speak. It makes no sense, so you can't be attacked on it later. But what you said was wrong. No, it didn't make any sense. How do you mean it's wrong, right? Mm-hmm. And that word is then replicated across the entire organization like a meme, like how a meme travels, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody starts using that same word or phrase that no one else was using before that time. Because now I'm in the in crowd. Because look at me, I'm using this word that someone else used that is actually considered as important in our corporation. That's going to be our word of the year.
Yeah.
And every time people said those things, and they go, what does it actually mean? When you say this, what does this really mean? And then they go like, well, but don't you get it? No, I actually don't. Right? That's ticked me off. Right? It's don't go into cattle behavior just because someone else says it. So that would be button number 2. Number 3 is people loading the dishwasher the wrong way. I'm sorry. There is a logic to how I do things because.
But they're not loading the dishwasher the wrong way. It's just not your way.
No. It's the wrong way, and I'll tell you why. Okay. So the big plates, they are going in the front because they're actually in the back of the cabinet, so I can pick them all up and put them in the back. And then the small plates are behind that because they're in front of the big plates in the cabinet.
But what
then all the forks and knives, they are in order, so I can just pick them up because I load the dishwasher at night.
Yeah.
Right? Or you load them at night. I unload it in the morning.
Yeah.
Right? In the morning, my brain isn't functioning that well. So all I do is like, okay, forks are here, and then goes in that drawer. So there's a logic to it. And it pisses me off no end that if someone does it wrong, I actually spent yesterday, because I didn't load the dishwasher yesterday night. I actually went back and reloaded the whole thing, which is stupid because I've spent just the amount of time as I would do, putting it in the drawers.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not saying it's a rational being a hot button, but it is an irrational hot button that I have. So the dishwasher needs to be loaded in a specific way. So being late for meetings, using silly phrases that someone uses and therefore you think you're fashionable, but you don't understand what they mean because the person making it up doesn't understand what it means, and loading the dishwasher the wrong way. So those are my 3 red hot buttons that nobody should be pressing. They go nuclear.
So funny, isn't it? So did the family put something in different?
Oh yeah, I think they do it on purpose. Yeah, I think so.
I put the fork over there and then. Especially if you've annoyed me that day. Yeah, let's put the plates slightly different.
Yeah. So I'll do the
But if you empty it, then that's okay. If you empty it, if you're putting it together and you're not the one that regularly empties it, well then that's tough. It's just got to go.
Yeah, no, I get up the earliest of the family because my coffee machine actually knows my name and it's calling me. Like, hey, Matt, come down, coffee. And so I'm a slave to the coffee machine.
Mine's chocolate. Chocolate calls me in the cupboard.
Yeah, so it's and that's why I do the dishwashers. How about you, Chris?
My 3 hot buttons. So what was the question again? My 3 hot buttons that set me off?
What are your 3 red hot buttons, right? And that set you off. That really gets you.
Kind of a continuation of the last question, but my 3 hot buttons are people that choose not to listen to what other people are saying and truly like actively listen to them. That's one. And I'll talk. So for me, like when I've been in so many meetings where you're thinking about, okay, here's an hour of my time and here's an agenda, here's something we want to accomplish, but watching people just talk for the sake of reacting to what the other person's saying without really truly actively listening to what it is they're saying. So I learned my very first college course, I got my GED after dropping out in 7th grade. My first college course when they gave me my book was interpersonal communication. And I thought, okay, they think I'm that stupid that I don't know how to talk. This is ridiculous. This is going to be a long time in school. But when I got in the class, I'm so grateful that was my first class because it taught us the fact that we get so in a hurry and we may hear, somebody says 25 words. I may hear 12 of those words, put them together and go, oh, I know what they're talking about. Instead of asking like, hey, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Could you please say that back to me? I apologize. I want to make sure I get it right and don't make any assumptions. But I've seen people time and time and time again. I see it all the time. And you're just like, okay, you had selective hearing disorder because you were thinking about, okay, I'm going to respond with this and I'm going to respond with that because this will prove their point wrong and this will make me look good. And then what do you have? This back and forth, and you're sitting there watching it. I don't know if you guys have ever done it. You're like, they're absolutely talking about two fucking different things. Like, this is ridiculous. So that's one of my hot buttons. What do I do to change it? The thing I do to it is I bring light to whatever's going on. I'm like, okay, guys, I just got to stop you right here. And I'm not afraid to do it. I just got to stop you right here. You're not listening to her and she's not listening to you. You guys are having a conversation that is really not getting to any point where it's going to actually have a conclusion that's going to be beneficial for both parties. So I highly encourage you, instead of like thinking about what you're going to say next, really listen to what Angie's saying. And then when Angie's done, go, thank you for sharing that, Angie. Here's what I heard you say. I heard you were talking about the fact that when sales marketing do things that operations doesn't know about, blah, 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 blah. What happens then? Angie feels heard. Oh my God, people are listening to me. They understood. And then you can sit there, and if you disagree with it, you can say, while I see your point, here's a couple of things that I'd like for you to consider on the other side. And then have Angie suspend her opinion for a second and actually have the dialogue go back and forth to where it's constructive. And I got made fun of because I was the guy that would make sure the conversations were effective in a meeting that was lasting an hour when I could have been doing something else in my life. So that's one of my hot buttons. Another hot button is people, when you walk it through the crosswalk. I walk my son to school every single day, and we have to walk through 2 different crosswalks. That people can't wait 18 seconds for you to get your kid, your wife, and your dog across this crosswalk without having to gun through the crosswalk like you're on your way to pick up a beating heart or something like that. That drives me bananas. Like, people are in such a hurry to go to the job they hate that they're willing to nearly run over. I've nearly been hit going that way. I've nearly been hit 3 times in 6 months, like nearly, like where I've had to yell at the driver and they've stopped and I'm like, get out of the car. Come on. I'm not going to be Mr. Nice Guy right now. You just almost tried to run over my family. So what do I do? In those moments when I'm not chasing them down, I actually sit there and think to myself, you know what, Chris, maybe they're on their way to the hospital because their kid just had an accident. Maybe they're late for the 7th time to their job and they might wind up getting fired. I just try to take it away from being about me to try to understand, okay, at least I don't have to drive to work right now, and try to rephrase my perspective about it. But also what I've been doing is going on Nextdoor, the Nextdoor app. I don't know do you guys have Nextdoor there in Australia? It's like an app on your phone. Okay, so beautiful. Yeah. So I go on there and just remind people, hey guys, when somebody's walking through the crosswalk, how about just take that 30 seconds to yourself and go, wow, I'm really grateful I have a job. Wow, I'm really grateful I have a car. Wow, I'm really grateful. Look at this beautiful family walking across the crosswalk. So I do stuff like that to get people to shift their perspectives. And the third hot button, I would say, is people talking about stuff that it probably goes back to the first one, but people talking about stuff they don't fully understand and trying to get people to gather the wagons around them. You know, there's so much stuff going on here in the United States with transgender stuff like that, and what they want to teach in schools, and what's going on in Florida, what's going on in Tennessee, what's going on. I mean, it's some pretty horrific stuff that's happening in the United States. And people are operating in this think tank, this group bias, where they're like, okay, as long as everybody thinks like me, then it's us against them and everything else. And people just don't understand the whole totality of the conversation. They're taking a 8-second soundbite and going, see, look what he just said. But they didn't listen to the 2-minute preamble to that set it up to say, oh, and we don't want to do this. But they just take the soundbite of that. So getting people to sit there and really understand, it's something that I've been super passionate about, and making sure that, you know, we all do a better job of that. And so with my voice and my platform, I'm going to start doing special offshoots. My show, Raw and Unscripted, appears every Tuesday night live here in Southern California at 7 p.m. But what I'm going to do is use my voice and my platform on Wednesday nights to start doing this thing where it's called Raw and Unscripted, Seeking to Understand. And I'm going to bring people on the show with all sorts of different types of opinions and ask them questions to try to understand where it is that they're coming from, so I can help me make a better overall, an overview, I guess, of what's going on, so I can understand from different people. So when two people are talking that disagree with each other, that I can actually sit there and say, okay, listen to what's being said here and listen to what's being said here. And for me to be a better understander of myself, because normally I just try to ignore the news and not do anything with it. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to do, to try to keep those things going. And yeah, I love that question. Who's up next? Is Mario going to answer that question?
But I think the problem is as well is that we've got, with TikTok and Instagram, you've got the 30 seconds or whatever of the bad side of it, but not hearing, as you said, the whole 2 minutes before. So we only hear the 30 seconds. And, you know, you're automatically, your back's up, you're cross about this, you're, you know, all all wrong about it, instead of just listening to the whole thing. But TikTok and Instagram, which is what everybody watches and looks at, only shows you that 30 seconds, and it's generally the bad side of
Get
it.
yourself engaged, get yourself angry, they make money.
Yeah.
Eradicate whatever's in the middle, because that's not what you need. Hey, it's 8 minutes past 6. We had another full hour. Chris, how are you for time?
I'm doing good. I'm here for, I think, another hour at least. Whatever you guys need me for.
Yeah, okay, let's go do another half an hour, because we have a 7 o'clock other guest. So let's go do another question, two questions.
All right. So,
but thank you, Chris, for being here, brother. Okay,
perspectives,
Chris.
Oh, you go.
Thank you, brother. So let's do another 1 or 2 questions. We have the pick and mix here with us, so let's go.
All right. So we're actually ready. Question number 15. What do you believe are the top leverage points to keep people going? And it says in between brackets legacy. So you may need to give some context on this one, Mario, if you want. So what are the top, what do you believe are the top leverage points to keep people going? How do you leverage people to?
How do you leverage? What's the points for you to make people going? Chris, can you answer that question?
Sure. So what do I believe are the top leverage points to keep people going? I think we've talked about it here in a lot of the conversations between what we did last night and what we're doing today. And I think the leverage point is to have what is their why, right? When you think about what your big why is, you have that big enough how. So when I'm working with people to try to figure out what their leverage points are, what is it that they're really trying to seek, right? What is it they're ultimately trying to avoid, and what was their bigger fear? And then be able to use that as leverage for them to get them going to realize that when we're going through these challenging opportunities, when we look back on our life, we've survived 100% of all the things that we've gone through, right? And so when we think about it, to keep people going through those tough times, we have to give them shift the perspective to how can I look forward to this, right? Where we're going to go up and we're going to climb a big mountain and we're going to get to the top. When we get to the top, when we scrape our knees and we scrape our feet, we're tired and everything else, we get to the top and we see this view and we're like, oh my God, that was a tough climb, but it was worth it. When we think about that, we do that physical exercise, it was worth it. I went out and played basketball. Oh my God, I left it out on the court. It was worth it. We went and did this. It was worth it. So being able to find that big why and be able to, find that leverage within ourselves to say, okay, when something terrible is happening, when something's challenging is happening, how can I shift my perspective to say, okay, listen, it's obviously happening in my life for a reason. So what is it that I'm going to choose to see from this as a learning point, so that by which learning it will allow me to help other people go through those similar experiences? So I think a couple of those leverage points are that, having your big why, shifting your perspective about it, and realize, am I part of the problem or am I part of the solution? So when people sit there and I want to give up, I'm like, is that being part of the solution or the problem? The problem. Okay. What are just 2 things that you can do to become part of the solution? And then again, shifting that perspective on them. Shifting that perspective with them to be able to sit there and say, listen, I can do this, right? It's just about taking one more step. If you guys look at, I don't know if Mario can see it, but I'm actually, I'm holding up a picture right now that shows the guy that actually is, almost to, the guy that's almost ready to break through and get the gold. We're always 3 feet from gold. So when you think about giving up, it's like, man, if I could just keep going, like exactly what we're doing here. Mario's tired. He's like, oh my God. But at the end of the day, when he's done with this and he goes 56 hours and 7 minutes, he's going to be like, oh my God, I feel so good. I feel so great. I'm so glad I did this. Right. So through those challenges is when we get the real reward for our tenacity and our courage and our resiliency. So yes, those are some of my thoughts.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
So the supervisor.
There's lots of things that keep our leverage points, like wrong reasons are money, obviously, and it's not one of mine.
Okay.
I couldn't care less what's happening with money or whatever. I mean, obviously you need it to survive, but I'm not. I know my father was hanging out on everyone's will to get more money, where I couldn't give about what I'm going to get handed down. I don't want to think. I've made it on myself. I don't want it there. That sort of thing. So it's just whatever people need at the time, I think. And that they need like extra love at the time. That's going to motivate them. That's all.
All right. It's the way I look at it. So I had a team in Microsoft that was across Asia, right? So it's you couldn't get more diverse than that, because people in Japan, India, China, all different backgrounds, different languages, etc. And what binds them together, in my view, and it should bind them, is common purpose, right? Not a common goal. So for instance, money is a goal, right? You make money and then, I've done it. Climbing a mountain is a goal. And then you ask, okay, and now what? I've climbed the mountain, now what? I'm goalless. I have to find a new goal. The purpose, you never really achieve it, right? It's why you're here. And your purpose, you can only try to get closer to it. Like, I'm achieving.
And to make yourself better as a better person.
Correct, right? And you're never going to be that perfect person.
No.
Right? It's not in our capacity to be perfect.
Well, we think we're perfect.
Well, that's the first imperfection. And all other imperfections roll down from that. But it's so, for me, the leverage point for people, if it's money, that's an external leverage point, right? And if I take that away or they achieve it, like when I left Microsoft, the first conversation that my manager wanted to have with me is, are we not paying you enough? Like, well, actually, that's not really the problem. You pay me too much if you want to keep me, because I don't need you. I don't need to be in this rat race to survive, which is fantastic for me. But from your HR policy, that's actually rather stupid, right? So you don't, because the thing that people do in corporate life, they actually go on, keeping up. So, I make more money, let me buy a bigger car. I don't care. I make more money, let me live closer to the city center. I don't want to live in the city center. Well, I don't care about the house, but I just don't want to live there, right? So I created a sense of independence, because I've had periods where I had no money and was just as happy as periods with money, right? I could just buy more things when you have money, but that's it. So it's the purpose on what you achieve. It's like, hey, we want to do the best possible thing for our clients, for instance, right? That was the purpose. We got a purpose. We want to make, working at our clients better for their employees by implementing software that helps them do their job instead of hinders them, right? Typically with software, like, I need to do these things because otherwise the system will all break down and it's not, well, that's a poorly implemented computer system. It's about 90% of it, by the way, right? If we go in and do it better, if we make someone's working life slightly better, that's a huge impact we have on people's lives, because you spend half your waking time at work, 8 hours a day during weekdays then. So that gives people purpose. And then you can break that down. Okay, what are the goals and objectives, right? A goal would be, well, we want to do these and these projects, and objectives is we want to do these projects on time, on budget, and on expectation, all that stuff. But you reach them, and then you have to find a new goal. So if it's an external motivation, as in, do this and you reach it, like climb this mountain and you're on the top. Okay, I'm here. Now what? All right, climb down. Okay, then what? So it's the purpose, and the same with this live stream. The purpose is not to make the world record. The purpose is bigger than that, and this is just the step to achieve that bigger thing. This is and if we make that step, fantastic, we're closer. If we're not, the purpose hasn't changed. So for me, leveraging to get the best out of people is to get people to be their best, and that is a common purpose. So for me, I would not hire someone in my business that doesn't have a purpose to make the lives better of our clients, right? The small business owners, right? If you're not passionate about making small business owners' lives better by making their businesses, more transparent how they run, give the business owner a little bit of their time back, because they spend less time, putting together the administration. Most of those things are, once it's set up correctly, easier for them, and they free up their time they can spend with their families. That's our purpose. A goal is obviously we want to do it and we have some money left over at the end of the year, so we can invest and become a little bit bigger, right? But that's just measurable goals. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Love it.
Pardon?
Who's up next?
I think Chris said love it. Well, thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Really, that coming from you, that actually means a lot.
Love it.
Thanks.
Oh, love it. I didn't hear what he said.
Oh, I love it.
You love it. We all love a bit of love.
Love. We need more love.
Love.
Yeah, you gotta love what you do.
Yes. I've forgotten the question. I know it was about purpose and things,
All
and
right.
leverage. And
I think it's question number 15.
yeah.
About how do you get leverage on yeah. It's getting late for me as well.
Yeah, I think so too. Are we going to go to the next one? The next
You don't
question.
want to. You want to skip to the next one?
Skip to the next one.
My purpose is to get to the next
My
question.
purpose is to go to the next question because 16 sounds like a good one.
Okay.
What drives you the most?
My car.
Motorbike.
My wife.
You know, in the last questions we were talking about the 3 buttons, and I couldn't remember the only one. The other one is I cannot stand and cannot understand how people can walk up to my motorbike and sit on it and touch it, and assume that they can do something like that. You know, like you see people talking about their cars and things like that. But you'll come out of the shop or something like that, and you know, I don't have a problem if you want to take a picture of my bike, whatever. But don't sit on it or touch it or anything like that. No. That presses my button. Sorry, just going back to that.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't imagine doing that either. Like, I got such a there's a motorbike. I have such a compulsion to sit on it right now. I must sit on that bike. You cannot stop me sitting on. Like, what do people think of you? This is odd, right?
Yeah.
Weird behavior. You wouldn't just go like, oh, a car, let me break it open and just sit on it. I'm not going to steal it. I'm just going to sit on it.
But people sit on people's cars, you know, like lean up against them and take photos. And I don't know. Sorry, that's me going back, regressing. I was regressing then.
Right, but question 16.
All right, 16. What drives you the most, apart from your car or your bike?
Car, but there's so much to do every day, and there's so few
I think
days.
For me, it's family that drives me the most.
But ultimately, that's where you spend the most time if you're doing a good job, right? Because I think Chris, you held up the book with the biggest regrets. I don't think any of the regrets is I wish I spent more time at work. It's usually at work with my family. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So it's and I'm blessed, right? It's like wow, it's almost amazing that they're not running away screaming from having to share the house with someone like myself. It's I got 2 great sons, a beautiful wife. It's like we're married for 23 years. The amount of patience they have to have with living with someone like myself is quite amazing.
Especially your OCD about the dishwasher.
Yes, no, let me be very clear. And again, on record, do not load the dishwasher the wrong way.
Should they listen?
Maybe.
Gosh.
Are they listening or following the instruction? Yeah. 2 different things.
Correct.
But it's what drives me is from a work perspective to make things a bit better for our clients. From a personal perspective, the fact that I can actually have a small business that employs some people, that give them chances that they normally wouldn't have. Because I hate it when people go into an interview as an interviewer and they are looking for people that already have all the experience that they need to do the current job. Right? You can't do the current job because you've not done this before in exactly the way that we want it for the last 15 years. Like, okay. But you're also not hiring someone that is overqualified because, you're overqualified, you're probably not going to stay. And what I found is that if you stretch people to beyond where they think they're capable, that means they haven't done it yet.
And they're going to stay.
And it's okay for them to fail. Right? It's not okay to leave it at that and ignore the failure because bad news ages like milk, not like wine. Right? Bad news gets worse over time, so you might as well address it. But if we all make mistakes, so if you hire someone that actually has the ability to
improve grow.
and therefore when they leave the business, because you're not signing your contract in your blood, you actually can leave if you want to. My job is that you don't want to. That you come out of it better than when you went in.
Yeah.
And that drives me as well when you see people grow just because you give them an opportunity. And again, I'm not saying I'm the only company that gives people opportunities. I'm just one of them. And I'm pretty proud of that. So that drives me from a business perspective, from a life perspective. Every day there's something new. There are people I haven't spoken with, like today. Meet people I haven't met before. You hear perspectives that make you go, that's an interesting way. Let me think about this a little bit more. And so from our talks today and yesterday, Chris, there's a lot of things that go like, wow, that's a very good way of looking at it. And I want to explore that further. So
nice.
It's just
awesome.
we have a short time on this holiday that we call life before we're called back. We might as well use it to, leave the holiday resort a little bit better than when we entered it.
100%.
Yep.
The supervisor.
What drives you, the supervisor?
All right, that's been different all through my life, really.
Mm-hmm.
It started off in my, like as a child, was a lovely home life, not. Because my parents didn't do anything that I did, so I went out of my way to do things which they weren't aware of, and I didn't tell them because they never asked. Like one example was I broke lots of swimming records, and I knew my half brother come and told my mother 30 years later that they were still there. I still held a record, and they said, "Oh, I didn't know you held a record." I went, "Oh, didn't you? Oh, maybe you should have come. Maybe you should have shown more interest at the time." And then I've got that was rebellious me, obviously, in that part. And then now just improving myself daily. How can I build on that and just make myself a better person, basically? And then helping my kids grow and my granddaughters grow, basically.
And that's what drives you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're doing a good job becoming better every day, because it's
Yeah.
wonderful for the few minutes that we know each other now, almost an hour. And,
3.5.
3.5. See, time flies.
Well, time flies.
Chris, how about yourself? What drives you?
What drives me? Oh,
Clean
man.
cars.
Yeah, what clean cars. Yeah, what drives me, honestly, is that feeling of doing something you didn't really want to do, and you do it better than you thought you could have done it when you've been procrastinating on it for such a long time. I love doing that. I love pushing myself and seeing what I'm capable of doing. That's why I'm doing this program 75 Hard right now, where I'm doing 2 workouts a day, 75 days, no cheat meals, no alcohol, no sugar, reading 10 pages of a personal development book every day, taking a progress picture, drinking a gallon of water for 75 days. I love figuring out what makes us tick and what are the nuances of what we need to know and learn about ourselves in order to go get past some of those fears and those thoughts of mistakes and failures. What drives me is being able to appreciate all the things we have in our life. So many times we're looking at the things we don't have. And so I live my life by massive gratitude. Like throughout the day, I'll just stop and thank God, source, universe. I'm like, thank you for the wind. Thank you for the beautiful trees. Thank you for the sun in the sky. Thank you for my son being downstairs and healthy. Thank you for technology. I'm just constantly living in a state of gratitude because I'm looking at the opportunity here to affect people's lives. I want to affect millions and millions of people's lives. My book's going to be out later this year, and I know that's going to be a huge hit with a lot of people. I intend on having it made into a movie. So what drives me is making a difference in this world, to know that I'm here for a particular reason, a particular season in people's lives, to help them think differently about their past, present, and their future, to help them become authentically, truly who they are, to be able to see life as exciting instead of fearful. So many people are walking around life and you can only look through life through one of two lenses, either love or fear. And so many people are looking through that fear lens, that scarcity lens, that what if lens, that ultimately they're going to get back to that place we talked about before, which is regret. And so what drives me is appreciating and enjoying each and every day, and telling my family that I love them, telling my friends and my brothers and my sisters that I love them and I appreciate them. To be involved in stuff like this that, that can change people's lives, that's what drives me. It's exciting. I mean, it's not easy, but at the end of the day, when you're on point and you're on purpose and you're continually learning about yourself and you're seeing how you can evolve and how you can become better than you were yesterday, that's exciting stuff for me. So I look forward every day, like, who am I going to be just a little bit different today? How can I grow just a little bit more today? How can I be a little bit more effective as a dad today? How can I be a little bit more effective as an interviewer today? How can I look and see the appreciation of life? How can I make a little bit difference in people's lives who are struggling? All that stuff gets me fired up and keeps me going every single day.
Right.
I think what drives me is that I love what I do. So I love my family. I love my job. I love coming to the radio and doing that. So in the morning, it's like, right, let's get going. You just want to talk to people, teach people and learn. And, so I think, that's what drives me is my life, because I just love my life. I mean, it's not perfect, of course, but I love everything that I do in my life, so that's what drives me.
I think that's a very good thing is that you get to do what you love.
Yeah.
But you have to find the things you love in what you do.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure, I mean, I look at my business, there are certain things I don't love doing, but they're part of the business.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's just part of the business.
It's just part of the business. But every day I go like, I got the best job in the world.
Yeah.
And I know that you may say the same thing and we do completely different things.
I would say in the world. I would say in the world.
I have
It's
the
not
best
the best
job
job in the world. No.
Okay, I have the best job in the universe. I can't think of anything better to do.
Yeah.
But it's I think that is, if you love what you do and you find a love of what you do and you focus on that,
you've got drive.
Then you got drive to do it, because that's what it is. Whenever I had a career discussion with someone in my team before, when they still could make career, because my organization was just small enough. They go, if you make career, that means you replace me. It's small enough, right? And that's fine. You don't want to do this forever, so there's hope. When people go like, I want to be this, and usually ends with the word manager.
Right? Be careful what you wish for.
It's like, okay, do you really think that that's let's say you're a principal architect and you want to be a manager, a program manager, and all this stuff. It's fantastic. They're all useful people, but your career is deep solution oriented, right? Don't mistake the hierarchy for career.
Yeah.
Don't mistake that, hey, now I get to look after other people, because if you're a true, successful leader of people, right? Because I don't believe you can manage people. You can manage tasks, not people, right? You're not gonna like it, because you're all of a sudden becoming all different things. Whereas you're now in a career path, deep technical or deep, organizational, functional flows. You're the expert. Your career path is so much more exciting in what you're going to do. I remember when I started my business, my brother actually told me the curse, may you have personnel, right? In other words, you're going to be so distracted from the things you like doing, because you now have other people like doing it. Now, I love working with people on teams, right? So it doesn't really apply. But if you're a deep technical person or a deep architect person, all of a sudden you have to manage people. As in manage people, right? You manage tasks, you have to lead people, you have to find a way that makes them think, motivated, give them purpose. It's a completely different skill set. So it's you done all of a sudden you don't focus on what you love doing, you focus on that title manager, that's career. I can now talk to my family, no longer the black sheep of the family. Look, I'm a manager. Like, but you're also unhappy. You got the title. You've reached the summit of the mountain. Now what's next? Gee, I wish I didn't climb this mountain because I don't like the view.
The wrong mountains.
That's yeah. All right.
We have time for another question. One more question.
Yeah, it is 6:31 here in Sydney. This is a very fun. I think we should start with Chris on this one, because you always have, from speaking with you earlier today, now just building the excitement. What's the question? Where do you believe we get most messed up? And that is in your childhood, in your teens. What is there a particular?
Psychologically messed up.
Yes, it says a different word, but I usually.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I do speak French though. I just don't speak it often. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh yeah, no, I was going to say I gave Mario these questions a couple of days ago, and I don't think he had a chance to proofread them. I was like, let's do this. I'll interview you, you interview me, and da 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 da. We actually had a list of fun questions to do too. We were actually supposed to do those today to keep them away. But where do I believe we get most messed up?
It's not fun questions, man. The fun is between you and I. This is serious stuff now.
I think
in the morning to have all this serious thinking.
Don't try to pull out, from the game. Question.
What's your superpower, Mario?
Stage of our lives.
No. What's funny is back when I was getting into the personal development space and reading Tony Robbins and Les Brown and all the different greats, I sat there and I thought, I kept thinking about, okay, I'm at where I'm at today, but I'm like, where did it start from? And I really, at that point, thought it started in our teenage years. I'm like, it couldn't have started when we were kids because we didn't know any better. So it's probably somewhere in our teen years where we get confused between being a kid and being an adult. And it's probably happening with puberty and everything else. So I kind of made it my quest. This is probably about, 7 or 8 years ago, So I started dipping into it and started researching child development, child psychology, and like, where do we get the most messed up? And I started realizing the child conditioning process happens with us between the ages 0 and 5. So again, I'll show this book for you guys. Oops. I'll put it up on the screen. I'm reading this book right now by Dr. Gabor Mate. It's called The Myth of Normal. It's a great book. Dr. Gabor Mate is an amazing gentleman. I've learned a lot about ADHD from him, child trauma from him, and this book is going into the same space. So you find out that a lot of what shapes our beliefs and our perspectives and our attitudes and our truths about ourselves happen between 0 and 5. So when you think back upon your life, think about all the different ideologies and the different belief systems that you are put into your awareness. Like for me, if I made one mistake, then I was bad for the rest of the day. But if I did something good, I hardly got noticed. So what was I going to do? I was scared to death of making any mistake or doing anything wrong. And then I was just trying to figure out, what it is that I could do. Could I do like 5 things right and maybe get some attention and some validation out of that? And so because I had that perspective, like if I do something bad, then if I make a mistake, then I'm bad and I don't get love and affection and inclusion. So I spent the rest of my life becoming that people pleaser, like I said before. And because I didn't have any self-confidence or awareness to be, speak proactively and things of that nature, I had to push myself in reading those personal development books and reading autobiographies in order to get myself out of that comfort zone to be able to tackle some of the things that I knew I needed to do in order to be successful. And so when you really think about it, in this book, The Myth of Normal, it talks about, in utero, a lot of the stress that the mother's stressed out, is, depending on how the pregnancy is going, what types of things they're putting into their body, that really can shape who we are even before we're born. And so I think a lot of what the healing process goes through, and I've been through traditional counseling, traditional therapy, and I've also been to, different types of healers. And I can say without a doubt, the psychiatry route, the therapy route, that just keeps you on a treadmill. That just keeps you on a treadmill to keep going back into the system. Here, take your meds, come back here and tell me about your problems next week. I've found more times than not than the therapists that have been trying to fix me or help me have way more worse problems than I do. I kid you not. I had a therapist on the floor crying because I asked her the same question she asked me, and I caught her off guard, and she just snapped. She broke. She was on the black lady that was sitting on the floor crying. I had to help her up, and I'm like, oh my God, and you're giving people advice? Are you kidding me? This is scary. So when we get real and honest with ourselves, it's pretty incredible that we can shift our perspective. Just doing this for people is just saying, hey, life is happening for you and not to you. Because people say, why is this always happening to me? Why is this always happening to me? It's probably happening to you because you haven't learned your effing lesson yet. So how about sitting there, instead of running away from that thing that you've been running away from all your life, how about just standing and being tall and confront it and say, okay, what is it that I'm supposed to learn from this particular situation so I could see and shift that belief about it being negative? It's actually something positive because I'm supposed to learn this for my greater good to become and to go on to whatever's next is being planned for me. So I dig that question. And we have an opportunity with our youth and with things we do today to help our youth, even if we're not parents to those kids, as a collective society, as a humanity, we have a responsibility to try to dig into some of the things that are pissing us off and be that example for those kids, because we don't need the governments to come tell us what to do and how to mediate. We as Americans, we as Australians, we as Japanese, everybody around the world has that opportunity to stand up and to seek first to understand and to change some of these perspectives about what's going on. So yes, I love this question. I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about it as well.
All right. Well, thank you, Chris.
Who's going to be first?
All right. Oh, my turn. I don't know where I got so messed up the way I am. Was it in my youth with poor decisions afterwards? I'm pretty sure there's people reminding me of things that I did when I was 18, 19 years old that I certainly do not remember and will forever deny. And there is no Facebook yet, so you can't see it. I hear you. The early years, right? If you look at the data, so let's look at it factually, right? It's the highest percentage of people that made successful in life. Success in life is leaving more than to your children than what you had when you were a child, right? The highest percentage of those come from not the broken family. That doesn't mean that, if you're from a broken family, it doesn't happen. That means that you have to do more to get there, statistically speaking. That also says then, okay, so probably that if you correlate it back, it's the early years, the early childhood to the teens, where you need to have that balance of the family to fall back on. So for me, and I'm very lucky. My parents obviously were very patient because they haven't kicked me out. I wasn't the best always, so it's turned out not in jail. I'm doing reasonably well, so I'm grateful where I am. So I can't really speak up from how messed up I am. Maybe I am. That's for other people to decide. But it seems to be working well for me, and I had a stable, good childhood. Now the statistics of one, right? Me. That's so. But the data overall shows that seems to be an impact on success factor.
Yeah.
Meaning that I was lucky that I didn't have to do all the other things. So can you do things in later life that mess you up? I think you can. You can make some really poor decisions, and then the worst decision from that is not recovering from your poor decisions, because we all make poor decisions, right? That's the capacity in all of us, and we'll use that capacity to its fullest extent to make poor decisions.
Yeah.
But it's the right attitude is like, okay, ooh, that didn't go as it was planned. This. Versus like, hey, I'm in this hole and I got a spade. Let's keep on digging, right? And that separates. So we all have the capacity to mess things up for ourselves and others. Whereas if you got the resilience, you learn how to pick up the rope that someone throws down the hole at you and climb back up, and where you decide not to go like, no, I got it. I'll do it myself, and you keep on digging. Those are holes that you dig later on in life. For instance, I have some acquaintances that had a gambling habit.
Yeah.
Right. That didn't start when they were 5. They dug that hole. If you ask me, there's nowhere else to look than at yourself. Later in life, it's just the next one will pay out. Trust me, the next one will pay out. And they keep digging it on. Before they knew it, they stole $30 million from their employer. Right. That's not good. It's like, how do you do that? So I think in every stage of life you have the ability to mess it up. Equally, you have the ability to get it right. There's no such thing as like now it's too late to fix anything. Even on your deathbed, you can make attempts to fix things until it is that final moment, the final breath, and then it's done. So use that time. One of the things that I heard earlier is like the playing the victim. If you learn that early in life, like, hey, it's not my fault, right? It's not my fault. I didn't do it, right? If you get away with that, if that's the lesson that you go like, hey, this works, and that's imprinted on you, then you can't fix anything. And the best thing someone told me, and it's also the toughest thing, is everything that ever happened to you is your fault. They're like, well, how is it my fault that like this is and this? And it's completely out of your control, and it's really bad, and you should feel sorry for me. And he says, I don't care. Because if I tell you that it's your fault and you believe me, that means you can do something about it.
Yeah.
Now you're in control. And that's a whole different perspective. That opened up my eyes to a different way of seeing the reality, because I don't know what reality is, but I do know how I perceive it. And if I can perceive it in a way that puts me back in the driver's seat, then I'll take it. So my 2 cents.
Your 2 cents. I think my 2 cents is that, oh God, I don't know what it is about this time of the morning. It's just too early. My brain just goes whoops like that.
6:42 a.m. here in Sydney.
Just trying to, I had a good childhood. I can't complain about my childhood, but that's what's molded me. You have your ups and your downs, and you did have issues, and you were naughty, you were bad, and things. But that's what's molded me and has made me who I am. And things that did happen that were bad, you've just got to hopefully get through them, in your own way. And when you get through them in your own way, that molds you to become the person that you are. And if you just try and be that beautiful person that's in you, even though you've had all those issues, then that beautiful person will come out, So my childhood was great. I've had a lovely mom and dad and sisters, and my sisters hated me at times and I hated them, but it molded me, and now we still love each other, and but that's my life. Everybody's life is so different, but my life molded me to the person that I am, And I hope that person is a good person and teaching the next generation to be resilient and to carry on and to get through, and so it's I think we're all our own, we've all had issues, we've all had things that have molded us, but hopefully our mold is us and we are the good people that we are.
Amen, sister.
Amen. Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, my pathway is totally different. When I think of it now, I think, well, there's no ever thing thought of as a victim. But when I think of it now, I was a victim, but I never thought of it that way. I mean, my fun on the Saturday morning was I would go to work with my mother. This is when I was 3 and 4. I mean, she would go into farmers into town in the middle of Sydney. And she would go in and start working in like cutting hair. And I'll be out in the waiting room, and farmers was a humongous waiting room back then. And no one was watching me for 5 hours. And I pushed a boundary every week. So here I was, 3 and 4 year old, down on George Street, walking up and down, having fun, looking down the streets of Sydney all by myself. No one questioned it.
Whereas in this day and age, we would
Everybody
definitely question
it.
Yeah.
But I didn't think anything more of it.
Because that's how you were brought up. That was your world.
And that was all I did, was I just do it. And I don't think of anything of it. And I've just always just done things that have been different. And I've never thought of I'm a victim.
Has it built a certain sense of self-reliance in you? You're self-resilient, self-reliance. You can do things without just external things.
I think so, but there's also a downside. Because I know I never ask for help when I should be asking for help.
When you should be asking, which is hard for a lot of people as well. You know, but it is you've got to step back and go, yes, I need help. So I've got to ask for help, because there's nothing wrong with asking for help.
But but I just haven't got those skills probably.
But we know you're a beautiful person.
Thank
the few times I've met you. Because it comes across. Straight away if someone's a beautiful person or not.
You do.
It doesn't matter, You only need to say 10 words sometimes and you go, oh, that's a lovely person.
Yeah, but just the way.
10 words of another person and you go, oh.
Okay.
I'm out of here.
That is so true. That is so true. And some people are much better at picking it up than others. I was telling, I know it was with you, Chris, but my wife is very good at picking up. She can meet someone and within minutes go, oh, okay, watch out for that.
Yeah.
And I go, what do you mean? We just met that person. And true enough, 3 months later, they do exactly what she, I don't know how she picks it up. Right?
No. Well, because I both pick it up all the time.
Yeah, I'm
so did you pick up when I was like, I'm not?
Yeah, of course. No, you do.
Yeah, you do though. Yeah.
Guys, before we continue, our conversation, just want to say thank you to Chris for being with us last 3 hours. And
you are most welcome.
Yesterday, last 3 hours. As I mentioned before, that my entire venture, last 48 hours almost. It's going to be converted into the book, so I talk slowly now because my body can't follow anymore.
So this is the part where we start reading slower as well.
Yeah, like I'm seeing the green people on the wall. I don't know what's happening. But anyway, the long story short is I'd like to say thank you for Chris. Chris, what's your website, please? I can't talk anymore. Chris.
Oh, my website is noexcusescoach.com. It's super simple. noexcusescoach.com. You can connect with me on all sorts of social media and everything, and find my show, the Raw Unscripted Show.
Okay, Chris. I'd like to say thank you, guys. So everything was started on the 29th of April on 11 a.m. in this radio station, live 90.5 FM. It's going to be transcribed, and then all audio is going to be transcribed, and it's going to be turned into a book. Chris, he spent 6 hours and more with myself and Matt, and now with lovely friend of mine.
Supervisor or Sue?
So, not supervisor. So.
Supervisor.
There's a reason I'm the supervisor.
Okay. Why?
I've got to keep John Rob and Lord Pig in no.
Okay.
And that's not an easy job.
Okay. I bet it's not there. So, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to contact my good friend Christopher Rausch. I'm going to tag everything, give me a day or two. I'm gonna make a big posting and contact each person I interview, the people who are in the studio. Let me to sit on the side like today, like a Sue and the Lord Pig and the Matt, to sit on the side for a couple of minutes, and try to, come to my senses. So, Chris, thank you very much for yesterday. Thank you for today. You truly display the quality of not just a leader, but a friend as well. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Christopher Rausch and noexcusecoach.com. And I'm going to put his links into my socials. And guys, you can contact him as well.
Thank you, brother.
Chris,
it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Chris.
You say my other side of the body because the graveyard shift was not easy. And, doesn't matter because you can't feel it in there. So you step it in there. So thank you very much, Chris. And God bless you. I'll speak to you soon when I wake up tomorrow afternoon. Guys, there's going to be more links and contact the Chris. Thank you, Chris, brother.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. I'm going to still be watching on the live feed and supporting you guys. Go spend some time with the family. I love you, Mario. I think you're doing fabulous. You've got an amazing support team. I love you guys. I appreciate you. And it's been a great conversation about life, and I've learned as well. So we got to have more of these. So thank you. I know you got this, Mario, and I'll be chatting you up in the WhatsApp.
It's going to be good then. Thank you, brother. I really appreciate it. Speak to you soon, okay?
Thank you. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Sorry for the interruption, but hey, Mom.